Previously, Guan surpassed the divine transformation realm and secretly entered the void crossing realm after consuming an enormous amount of spiritual energy from beneath the Taishuan sect. While the sect prepared for an imagined demonic invasion, Guan continued hiding behind the identity of an ordinary valley master. Using the great yin-yang transformation, he appeared as a terrifying demonic shadow and effortlessly destroyed a divine transformation cultivator who threatened Mystic Valley. Meanwhile, Ji Xiaoyu's innate Dao talisman attracted spies from several demonic sects. Zhang Sheng returned carrying dangerous secrets, and Guan gained access to powerful techniques, hidden treasures, and new medicinal valleys. Now, Emperor Li Xuandao has entrusted him with Tianya Valley, a secret herb garden hidden deep within demon-infested mountains. With more spiritual fields under his control, Guan's lifespan income is about to rise dramatically. But powerful geniuses, hidden sect conflicts, and mysterious figures are beginning to gather around him, and protecting his peaceful life may soon require far more than remaining unnoticed. Let us continue with Episode 6. Catch demon beasts? Guan immediately became interested when he heard that. As they continued descending, Tianya Valley gradually emerged through the curtain of drifting snow. Viewed from above, it resembled a vast emerald sea. Narrow streams flowed down from the surrounding mountains and forests into the valley. At its outer edges, two small rivers could be seen winding away, eventually disappearing deep beneath the earth. Before long, Luo Hun brought Guan down to the ground. He then drew a long spear and stood ready. From this moment onward, you are the Valley Master. Do whatever you wish. You may give me orders whenever necessary, Luo Hun said. Guan nodded and deliberately drew the Tiansu sword. Build several pavilions near the edge of the valley. I'll clear the weeds. Luo Hun's gaze fell upon the sword's scabbard and his pupils abruptly widened. He immediately dropped to one knee. This general Luo Hun greets the master of the Tiansu sword. Guan had intentionally revealed the Tiansu sword because he feared Luo Hun might not take him seriously enough. As expected, the effect was excellent. What are you doing? Hurry and get up. Feigning alarm, Guan quickly helped him to his feet. Once Luo Hun stood, his expression became complicated. I never expected His Majesty to bestow the Tiansu sword upon you. Guan asked in surprise, why are you reacting so strongly? Luo Hun replied, Taicang possesses 3 great imperial swords. To see one of those swords is the same as seeing the emperor himself. They are Tianwen, Tiansu, and Tianfa. His Majesty currently wields the Tianfa sword, while the Tianwen sword is in the hands of the Crown Prince. Without His Majesty's permission, no one is allowed to touch them. That is why seeing the sword is equivalent to seeing the sovereign. After hearing this, Guan suddenly realized how highly Li Xuandao regarded Li Ya. Perhaps he even held a position equal to the Crown Prince in the Emperor's heart. Without Li Xuandao's approval, it would have been extremely difficult for Li Ya to inherit the Tiansu sword. Yet now, the sword had fallen into Guan's hands. What exactly was Li Xuandao planning? Guan was accustomed to considering the worst possible explanation, so he felt the emperor's intentions could not be that simple. After all, the heart of an emperor was as deep as the sea. I understand. Let's get to work then, Guan said. Luo Hun had no objection, though his gaze could not help lingering on the Tiansu sword several more times. Then he watched Guan use the imperial sword to uproot weeds, and his lips moved as though he wanted to say something. Luo Hun struggled with himself for a while before finally turning away. Half an hour later, the formation steels surrounding Tianya Valley were activated. Each stone monument released a beam of blue light that shot into the sky. The beams converged overhead, forming a vast hemispherical barrier around the entire valley before gradually turning transparent. Once the formation was running, Luo Hun began constructing the pavilions. By noon, Guan had cleared every weed from the valley floor. His efficiency was astonishing. Had he not needed to conceal his true strength, a single stamp of his foot would have wiped them all away. Over the following 3 days, Guan finished sowing the seeds. Luo Hun had brought an enormous quantity of high-grade medicinal seeds, and his storage bag seemed almost bottomless. During those 3 days, Luo Hun completed 5 pavilions and captured 3 monkey demons. All 3 were second-rank demon beasts capable of walking upright. Aside from the long fur covering their bodies, they looked remarkably similar to humans. Luo Hun asked Guan to name them. Guan simply ranked them according to cultivation, and called them Swans, Sun 2, and Sun 3. Luo Hun remained silent for a very long time. The 3 monkey demons, however, seemed delighted with the surname Sun. Guan led them through the various gardens and assigned their daily duties. They could already speak the human language, and each was clever enough to understand instructions without difficulty. Guan was not worried about them causing trouble. Luo Hun had placed restrictive spells upon them, leaving their lives and deaths beyond their own control. Elsewhere, Luo Hun walked to the steps of a pavilion and lay down. From inside his robe, he produced a book. 4 characters were written prominently across its cover. Investiture of the Gods. He too was an admirer of the novel. Earlier, when Guan had spoken with him about Investiture of the Gods, Luo Hun had become unusually excited, completely losing his usual cold and aloof demeanor. As evening approached, Guan found Luo Hun and told him he intended to return to Mystic Valley. Luo Hun was afraid something might happen to him. The route was filled with demon beasts, but Guan insisted on leaving. He assured Luo Hun that he would be careful. After thinking for a moment, Luo Hun took 10 talismans from his storage bag. These are invisibility talismans. Once you pour spiritual energy into one, it will conceal your body as well as your aura. Unless you encounter a third-rank existence or a core formation cultivator, it will be difficult for anyone to discover you. Each talisman lasts 5 double hours. Use them sparingly. You still need enough for the return journey. Guan accepted the talismans and cupped his hands in thanks. Still uneasy, Luo Hun said, "Why not establish your foundation before leaving? I have foundation establishment pills here." Guan shook his head. "I already have foundation establishment pills of my own, so there is no need to worry. I memorized the route when we came, and I carry plenty of spirit chi pills." With that, he mounted his sword and departed. The valley's formation did not prevent people from leaving, but entering from the outside was another matter entirely. Luo Hun watched Guan's receding figure with a frown. Remembering the emperor's instructions, he could only sigh. Li Xuandao had clearly stated that if Guan died, another valley master would be appointed. Luo Hun's duty was merely to protect Tianya Valley. After traveling roughly 100 miles away from Tianya Valley, Guan suddenly increased his speed. Before nightfall, he had already returned to Mystic Valley. With Tianya Valley now under his management, the coming days would be busy. The cave residences of the outer disciples still required his attention, and he would also need to visit Tianya Valley from time to time. He did not completely trust the monkeys to manage everything on their own. Even though he would be constantly traveling, Guoan did not feel tired. On the contrary, he was filled with motivation. In a few more years, his lifespan income would soar. Once the Medicine Valley promised by Gu Zong also came into his possession, 1 million years of lifespan would no longer seem impossibly distant. Guan even considered studying puppet techniques, so that every valley could have a puppet monitoring the medicinal herbs. Before that, however, he needed to raise his publicly displayed cultivation. The 9th level of the Qi refining realm was simply too insignificant. At the very least, traveling repeatedly between Mystic Valley and Tianya Valley would become troublesome. Just like that, 15 days passed. Guan went to the outer sect and visited Elder Liu Chang at the library hall. In his opinion, Liu Chang wielded more influence than Zhou Qinglu of the Pill Hall. The two met privately inside a room. Liu Chang was reading the newest volume of Investiture of the Gods and smiled without looking up. "Not bad. Not bad at all. This is wonderfully written. A few pages are enough to leave me desperate to read more." Guan hesitated before saying, "Elder Liu, I have something to ask of you." "What is it?" Liu Chang asked, still reading. "I am preparing to establish my foundation, but I do not wish to become an outer disciple. I would like to remain the master of Mystic Valley. That would also make it easier for me to continue writing. If I become an outer disciple, I will be required to leave the sect on missions. I'm afraid I might die out there. That's all? Can Elder Liu arrange it?" "Of course. Heh. I'll speak directly with Gu Yu. He previously told me that his father thinks highly of you and instructed me to look after you and satisfy your reasonable requests whenever possible." Liu Chang smiled like an old fox. Guan immediately thanked him. Setting the book down, Liu Chang said, "You are already considered a special talent of the Taishuan sect. Mystic Valley's annual output ranks among the top 3 medicine valleys in the outer sect. On top of that, you are capable of writing Investiture of the Gods. Because of your book, the number of disciples recruited by the Taishuan sect each year has risen by 50%. Your value already far exceeds whatever contribution an ordinary outer disciple could make through missions. Rest assured. Even if you somehow reach the core formation realm one day, no one will force you to leave the sect on assignments." Even Liu Chang found the statement amusing as he said it. He himself had not reached core formation. Could Guan possibly do so? Guan felt a great weight lift from his shoulders. This would make everything far easier. He merely needed to avoid appearing like a genius. He could gradually raise his visible cultivation over time, which would also make his future activities more convenient. As if remembering something, Liu Chang continued, "The genius Chu Tongyou of the Zhuishan sect intends to visit the Taishuan sect soon and challenge young cultivators under the age of 100. It will certainly be lively. You should observe the event and gather inspiration for your next book. Remember to include the Taishuan sect in it when the time comes." Investiture of the Gods was nearing completion, and Liu Chang had already received instructions from above. Guan nodded and asked curiously, "Is Zhou Tongyou truly that powerful?" "Of course. Born with its dual spiritual roots, and his physique is the evil-suppressing golden body, which the Zhou family spent thousands of years cultivating through successive generations. Among those at the same realm, he has never met an equal. At the 9th level of Foundation Establishment, he once killed a cultivator at the 3rd level of Core Formation. That battle shook the cultivation world. He is now hailed as the strongest genius to appear in the Taichung cultivation world in the past century. Liu Chang spoke of Chu Tongyou with obvious amazement and admiration. He began recounting the famous battle, and Guan listened with great attention. In Guan's opinion, geniuses capable of crossing realms to kill stronger enemies were all protagonists favored by destiny. He certainly could not do such a thing, or rather, he would never dare to. Compared with challenging powerful opponents above his realm, he much preferred using overwhelming cultivation to crush enemies weaker than himself. Half an hour later, Guan left the library hall. He bought several things in the city and hurried back to Mystic Valley. The following morning, Guan gathered his disciples for their exercises and announced that he had successfully entered the Foundation Establishment realm the night before. The disciples were both shocked and delighted. Wuxin was pleased, but at the same time, he felt a faint reluctance. Now that senior brother had established his foundation, he would certainly enter the outer sect. That meant Wuxin would soon become Valley Master. "Master, does this mean you are going to leave us?" Zhen Qin hurriedly asked. Her voice was filled with reluctance, and she wore an exaggeratedly pitiful expression. The other disciples also stared at Guan nervously. Wuxin suppressed his excitement and pretended to look disappointed as well. Guan sighed. Yes, the disciples' expressions immediately dimmed. Wuxin's heart began pounding uncontrollably. The most distressed person was Xiao Xuan. He wanted to become the most senior person remaining in the valley. However, because our Medicine Valley has produced excellent harvests, I asked the outer sect for permission to remain here as Valley Master, and they agreed. Guan suddenly changed direction and quickly finished the sentence. The disciples froze. Then they erupted into cheers and crowded around him. Wuxin stood there blankly. It took him several breaths to force a smile onto his face. Xiaochuan was the happiest of them all. He knew he had no hope of establishing his foundation in this lifetime. If Guan remained beside him for the rest of his life, he would naturally be delighted. Only Guan was willing to tolerate his obsession with raising demon beasts. Mystic Valley became filled with celebration. Wuxin needed a long time to calm his emotions. Guan noticed his mood and pulled him aside. He explained that another Medicine Valley would soon come under his control. Even if Guan continued residing in Mystic Valley, Wuxin could still manage the valley in practice. In the future, Wuxin would possess the genuine authority of a Valley Master. That immediately restored his excitement. Looking at Wuxin's eager smile, Guan found himself remembering Cheng Xuandan and Zhang Chunqiu. The scenery remained, but the people were gone. What a pity. Time passed quickly. Every 2 days, Guan left the valley to manage the cave residences of the outer disciples. Every half-month, he made a trip to Tianya Valley. After learning that Guan had established his foundation, Luo Hun finally stopped worrying about him and no longer interfered with his travel. Seeing that Luo Hun enjoyed reading, Guan brought him a copy of the Wandering Hero's Travels. Strangely, on later visits to Tianya Valley, Guan never once saw Luo Hun reading the Wandering Hero's Travels. Did he not like it? In that case, Guan would not bring him any more volumes in the future. But then why had Luo Hun also stopped reading Investiture of the Gods? Winter passed, spring returned, and another new year approached. Mystic Valley prepared to celebrate the new year. The disciples busied themselves with arrangements, while Guan carried the white spirit rat through the gardens, inspecting each plot. The white spirit rat thoroughly enjoyed being held. Its eyes remained tightly closed, as though it had fallen into a deep sleep. A sharp rush of wind sounded from the distant sky. Guan turned and immediately broke into a broad smile. Yi Lan had returned. She quickly landed beside him, placed her flying sword into her storage bag, and smiled casually. "Senior brother, I came back to celebrate the new year. You wouldn't refuse to welcome me, would you?" Guan looked at her and asked with a smile. "Has the law enforcement hall suddenly become idle? No matter how busy we are, we can still spare a few days. Proper relaxation is beneficial to cultivation." "Those were your own words. Senior brother, I have always remembered them." Yi Lan blinked and spoke in a deliberately sweet voice. After exchanging greetings for a while, she pulled Guan toward his pavilion. "Senior brother, let's go to your room first. I have a treasure to show you." "A treasure?" Guan set the white spirit rat down and followed her. They went upstairs. After entering the room, Yi Lan left the door open, allowing Guan to breathe a quiet sigh of relief. She approached the table and took an embroidered box from her storage bag. Turning toward Guan, she smiled proudly. "Senior brother, I specially prepared this foundation establishment gift for you." "There was no need. When you established your foundation, I never gave you a gift." Without the foundation establishment pill you gave me, would I ever have succeeded? I'm not one of those geniuses capable of forcing a breakthrough through spiritual root talent alone. Yilan shook her head with a smile. Hearing this, Guan no longer refused. He stepped beside her and looked curiously at the box. Yilan opened it. Inside lay a gnarled root resembling ginseng. Unless one sensed it very carefully, the faint spiritual fluctuations within it were almost impossible to detect. Human-faced tree recovering. 622,000. A maximum lifespan of 22,000 years? Guan raised an eyebrow. This was the first time he had seen the words recovering state. Yilan explained this is the root of a 6th grade spirit tree. If it is buried deep in the earth for several years, it can grow again. Once revived, it can also increase the spiritual energy throughout an entire area. Guan asked curiously, where did you obtain something so precious? Yilan blinked. Some time ago, while pursuing demonic spies, I found it inside the cave residence of an agent from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion. I didn't turn it in. That doesn't sound particularly appropriate. Don't worry. Other law enforcement hall disciples keep a few things as well. The higher-ups tacitly allow it, as long as no one becomes excessively greedy. Besides, no one else knows this treasure exists. After hearing that, Guan felt less burdened. He thought for a moment and said, if you ever need medicinal herbs, tell me. I will soon receive another Medicine Valley. In the future, we can help one another. Yilan smiled. Good. I'll go see the others now. I brought gifts for them as well. Guan nodded, and she left. He stared at the embroidered box on the table, considering where the root should be planted. After thinking it over, he decided to reserve it for his 3rd Medicine Valley. A newly established valley needed its spiritual energy strengthened. The denser the spiritual energy, the faster the medicinal plants would grow. Mystic Valley had already developed its own stable cycle, and did not require another spirit tree. As for Tianya Valley, why should Guan contribute his own treasure there? Tianya Valley belonged to Li Xuandao. Guan only possessed management authority. If the valley required anything, he could simply request it from the emperor. He put the embroidered box into his storage bag, walked to his writing desk, dipped his brush into ink, and began writing. Yilan's presence made the atmosphere in Mystic Valley even warmer. When night fell, the New Year celebrations began, and the valley grew increasingly lively. Once everyone had taken their seats and started drinking, Zhen Qin asked Yilan to tell them about the missions undertaken by outer disciples. Yilan did not refuse. Besides protecting the outer sect, law enforcement hall disciples were also required to travel beyond the sect for experience, and Yilan was no exception. At the time, we accepted a mission to eliminate an evil spirit. We traveled to a small mountain town where nearly 1,000 households had died within only a few days. To prevent the creature from continuing to harm the people, the local authorities requested assistance from the Taishuan sect. There were 7 of us in total. Yilan recounted the experience with vivid detail. Since it was already night, her story made the disciples increasingly tense. The female disciples huddled together in a tight group. Guan watched the young girl who had once followed at his heels. Now, she was capable of taking responsibility on her own. The smile never left his face. When Yilan reached the parts involving ghosts and evil spirits, the disciples' hearts nearly leapt into their throats. Even Xiaoshuan, Wuxin, and Suhan listened with intense nervousness. The gathering did not disperse until late at night. Yilan followed Guan back to his pavilion. He took out a manual he had finished copying and handed it to her. This is a leg technique manual I obtained during my previous visit to the inner sect. Practice it whenever you have time. Gale's Shadowless Kick. Yilan accepted the manual. Without opening it, she placed it into her storage bag and looked at Guan. Senior brother, if you meet Lu Jujia in the future, you must be careful. What happened to him? Guan asked in confusion. Yilan sighed. Didn't we discuss this before? There is an internal struggle within the Taishuan sect. The elders opposing the sect master have been secretly recruiting disciples. Lu Jujia accepted an elder from the outer elders' hall as his master, and that elder serves the faction standing against the sect master. If this continues, the Taishuan sect will eventually descend into chaos. If the sect master emerges victorious, he will certainly purge the rebellious disciples. Lu Jujia will not escape. I tried to persuade him before, but he refused to listen. He said the path of cultivation requires struggle. He would rather risk everything than live an ordinary and unremarkable life. His choice is not necessarily wrong. I'm only afraid that if you remain too close to him, he may implicate you later. He probably understands that as well, which is why he has not returned to Mystic Valley. Guan fell silent. He could not interfere with Lu Jujia's decision, because Lu Jujia was right in one respect. The path of cultivation required people to compete for opportunities. Guan avoided such competition only because he could seize lifespan. He therefore had no right to dictate how someone else should pursue immortality. Yilan changed the subject and continued talking about the outer sect. She explained that the internal conflict also involved the Ji family and members of the imperial clan. Guan listened with great interest. They spoke until dawn before Guan finally saw her off. Despite talking through the entire night, both of them remained perfectly energetic. Before she left, Guan reminded her not to neglect the Gale Shadowless kick. Yilan nodded, though a faint trace of resentment appeared in her eyes. After she departed, Guan called the disciples out for their morning training. Beneath the blazing summer sun, 35-year-old Guan stood before his window, gazing into the distant sky with a frown. He was waiting for Guyu. The promised half-year had already passed. Why had he not arrived? Guan had been looking forward to receiving his third Medicine Valley, day and night. He had prepared all the seeds long ago and was merely waiting for land in which to plant them. Could something have happened? Guan felt increasingly worried. When he visited the outer sect the previous month, he had clearly sensed that the atmosphere there was wrong. A group of black-robed disciples had appeared in the city. According to rumors, they belonged to a new department established by the recently appointed Grand Elder of the outer sect, the Demon Extermination Division. The Demon Extermination Division answered directly to the Grand Elder. Even its weakest members had reached the 5th level of Foundation establishment, and their treatment surpassed that of disciples from other departments. The Taishuan sect possessed 8 outer cities. If the struggle was already so intense in one of them, what must be happening in the inner sect and the sect's main city? Such conflict would surely affect Guzong as well. What a nuisance! They were interfering with his farming. Suddenly wanted to smash every troublemaker apart with a single punch. At that moment, he sensed something. His gloomy expression immediately transformed into a brilliant smile. He was here! He was finally here! Guan detected Guyu's aura. He struggled to calm himself and did not go downstairs. A while later, Guyu landed inside Mystic Valley. Guan! His loud shout immediately attracted the attention of every disciple in the valley. Guan opened his door, looked down, and said, "Brother Gu, come upstairs. We can talk inside." Guyu stored the compass in his hand and climbed the pavilion. Once he entered, Guan closed the door and poured him tea. Guyu did not sit. Instead, he stood beside the bookshelf and looked through the volumes as though searching for something. "I haven't finished the final volume of Investiture of the Gods yet," Guan said. Guyu immediately looked disappointed. He turned, sat at the table, and removed several books from his storage bag. Finally, he produced a command token. "This is your Valley Master token. Your Medicine Valley lies between the outer and inner sects, less than 100 miles from the outer city. Now that you are a Foundation establishment cultivator, traveling back and forth should not be troublesome. These books contain the life experiences my father wrote down over the years. You may use them as reference. He said you do not need to follow the truth exactly. You can alter the events or even use his experiences as inspiration for an entirely fictional story." As Guyu reached the final part, his expression became suggestive and he gave Guan a meaningful look. Guan placed a cup of tea in front of him and casually picked up the Valley Master token. Unlike Mystic Valley's bronze-green token, this one was silver-white and contained numerous restrictions. "I'll take you to the valley shortly. If you ever lose your way, pour divine sense into the token, and it will guide you there." Guyu continued after drinking his tea. Guan nodded. He could hardly wait to see his new Medicine Valley. As though suddenly remembering something, Guyu added, "One more thing. When you write about me, include Chu Tongyou. Write that he is the strongest genius of the younger generation in the cultivation world, but he worships me above all others and obeys my every command." Guan's face twitched. "That won't work. If I write something like that, I'm afraid it will bring trouble upon me. Name your price. Whatever you want, I can provide it." "This is not a question of price. 100 high-grade spirit stones. If he sees the book, he will definitely investigate me. 1,000 high-grade spirit stones. That is my entire fortune. Could I write it humorously instead?" Guyu raised an eyebrow. "That is acceptable, but you may only change a single word." Agreed. Guan accepted, though he had no intention of insulting Chu Tongyou. He considered portraying them as brothers who cared for one another, while constantly competing. That way, neither side would be offended. He could tell that Guyu did not truly hate Chu Tongyou. Otherwise, he would not have asked to make Chu Tongyou his follower. He would have wanted the man humiliated instead. Guyu was probably only jealous. If Guan made them close brothers and added a compelling rivalry between them, Guyu would likely be satisfied. After preparing for half an hour, the two departed Mystic Valley on their flying swords. Dusk descended, and the sun sank toward the western horizon. Standing atop a cliff, Guan looked down at the Medicine Valley ahead with obvious satisfaction. A range of low mountains stretched before them. Between its peaks lay a vast valley more than 10 miles long and 2 or 3 miles wide. Dense rows of trees grew around its perimeter like a natural screen, shielding the valley from wind and storms. Standing beside him, Gu Yu said. There are several cave residences belonging to inner disciples nearby. As long as you do not travel more than 100 miles from this area, you should not encounter any demon beasts. Guan nodded, his eyes filled with anticipation. What he saw was not merely a medicine valley, but an endless stream of lifespan numbers waiting to rise. Gu Yu patted him on the shoulder and departed on his sword. Guan leapt from the cliff and flew directly toward the valley, visible currents of wind curling around his limbs. It was the wind control art. Standing on his flying sword, Gu Yu glanced back. His eyebrows rose slightly, and surprise flashed in his eyes, though he did not turn around. Guan landed and walked straight to the valley entrance. A tall stone stele stood there, its smooth surface completely blank. Using his finger as a sword, he carved 4 words into the stone with sword energy. Third Medicine Valley. The name was simple because he intended to possess many more medicine valleys in the future. Guan studied his calligraphy with satisfaction. Writing books had given him plenty of opportunities to practice, and his characters had developed a distinctive style with a sharp, decisive edge. After admiring the inscription for a while, he began searching for a place to construct a pavilion. Before anything else, he intended to build the teleportation formation. Dusk faded, and night gradually descended. Beside a fire, Guan sat upon a boulder with a book in his hands. It was the manual Ji Xiaoyu had given him, explaining how to construct the teleportation formation she had provided. The cultivation civilization of this world was truly advanced. Reading the manual felt almost like studying a simplified set of assembly instructions. The formation components had already been inscribed with the necessary restrictions. He only needed to follow the sequence recorded in the book. Guan planned to work through the night and complete the teleportation platform. Once the formation was ready, he could bring several disciples over to sow the seeds. Spirit stones were required to activate the formation. Fortunately, he was now wealthy. Apart from the income generated by investiture of the gods, Gu Yu had just given him 1,000 high-grade spirit stones, enough to support his expenses for quite some time. By the end of the night, Guan had successfully completed the teleportation platform. He immediately mounted his sword and departed. After returning to Mystic Valley, he constructed the matching platform beside his own pavilion. The commotion attracted the disciples, who gathered around to watch. Xiaoshuan asked what he was doing, and Guan did not conceal the truth. When the disciples learned that Guan was taking control of another medicine valley and intended to connect it through a teleportation formation, they became intensely curious and bombarded him with questions. Guan answered them while continuing his work. By noon, the platform was complete. Under everyone's watchful eyes, he inserted spirit stones into the asasakats built into the formation pillars. Once the stones were in place, he poured spiritual energy into the activation mechanism. Rumble, the teleportation formation came to life, and the ground trembled faintly. 2 formation pillars released brilliant beams of light. The beams converged above the platform and formed a luminous curtain. Guan turned and swept his gaze across the crowd. Wuxin, go to the outer sect and recruit 3 servant disciples. Suhan, Zhenqin, and Yeyan, come with me. Everyone else will remain here and guard Mystic Valley. Zhenqin and the other 2 became extremely excited. They immediately followed Guan into the teleportation formation. A moment later, the curtain of light vanished, and the platform returned to silence. Elsewhere, inside the Third Medicine Valley, Guan assigned the 3 disciples to clear the weeds while he took responsibility for constructing the buildings. Suhan used his sword, Ye Yan used his spear, and Zhenqin uprooted weeds with her leg techniques. Ever since Luo Hun had taught Ye Yan a spear art, the young man had repeatedly begged Guan for an iron spear. Guan eventually bought one from the outer sect. It was not an ordinary weapon. The metal could conduct spiritual energy, making it the lowest grade of magical artifact. Guan had little interest in spear arts, so he rarely watched Ye Yan train. Nevertheless, since beginning his spear practice, Ye Yan's combat ability had improved dramatically. He was the first genuine genius Guan had discovered in Mystic Valley. Ye Yan's cultivation still advanced slowly, but practical strength grew at an astonishing rate. After only half a year of spear training, Tongyou and Suhan together were no longer his match. The result dealt both of them a heavy blow. It also caused Guan to reflect upon comprehension talent. Comprehension was the only attribute he could not directly improve by investing lifespan. In this world, spiritual root aptitude clearly did not determine everything. Guan had selected Suhan, Zhenqin, and Ye Yan because he intended to promote them. During the incident involving Chu Tongyou, their behavior had won his approval. He had decided to cultivate them carefully and help them travel farther along the path of cultivation. The Third Medicine Valley lay between the outer and inner sects, and the spiritual energy here was considerably denser. It would benefit their cultivation, and Guan could occasionally provide them with special assistance. All three were diligent. They refused to rest before the weeds were completely cleared and even began secretly competing to see who could finish faster. By the time the valley floor had been cleared, Guan had completed 4 pavilions. The 4 of them gathered outside one of the buildings to rest. Suhan looked toward Yan with a trace of unwillingness in his eyes. Yan was much calmer. Since beginning his spear training, he had become increasingly restrained and inwardly focused. While wiping sweat from her face, Zhenqin asked, "Master, this place is enormous. Are only 3 of us really enough?" "Of course. Back when I first managed Mystic Valley, I did nearly everything alone. Your uncle masters Meng Lang and Li Ya spent their days avoiding work," Guan replied with a soft laugh. Remembering those small disputes from the past, he found them amusing now. Unfortunately, those familiar people were no longer present. Zhenqin immediately began asking about his earlier years. Suhan and Yan also listened attentively. Both of them held Guan in great respect. Although Yan's spear art had not been taught by Guan, he still believed he owed everything to his master. If not for Guan, why would that mysterious cultivator ever have visited Mystic Valley? Why would he have given Yan a spear technique? After half an hour of conversation, everyone returned to work. 3 days later, medicinal seeds had been planted throughout the 3rd Medicine Valley. It still resembled barren land, but seeds required time to sprout and grow. Guan took the 3 disciples back to Mystic Valley so they could collect their belongings, then moved them into the 3rd Medicine Valley permanently. The remaining servant disciples were extremely curious. Several also wanted to transfer there, but Wuxin stopped them. As the acting master of Mystic Valley, he could not allow everyone to leave. Mystic Valley was his foundation. In this way, Guan's 3 medicine valleys began operating, and his peaceful pastoral life steadily took shape. 1 month passed after the seeds were planted in the 3rd Medicine Valley. Zhenqin, Suhan, and Yan guarded the valley while Guan visited only from time to time. Each day, they needed only a short period to inspect the gardens. The rest of their time could be devoted to cultivation. As evening approached, the sky burned crimson. Zhenqin walked out of her room and stretched tiredly, though her face remained radiant. The cultivation method Jiang Qiong had taught her allowed her cultivation to advance far more rapidly than before. As a result, her enthusiasm for training had reached its peak. She turned and saw Yan still practicing his spear on the slope near the valley entrance. "What use is there in practicing only the spear without absorbing spiritual energy?" she muttered. She did not go over to watch. Instead, she used her break to inspect each garden. Everything here represented her master's labor and hopes. Elsewhere, Yan trained beneath the fading light of sunset, sweat pouring from his body like rain. Even though every muscle ached, he refused to stop. This spear art was his only opportunity. He would not let it slip away, and he refused to remain a servant disciple for the rest of his life. The spiritual energy inside the valley is clearly denser. Why do you practice your spear out here? A voice suddenly sounded, startling Yan into turning around. 10 yards away, amid the forest, a figure stood with 1 foot balanced upon the top of a tree. His blue robes fluttered in the wind, giving him the bearing of an immortal. When had he appeared? Yan was inwardly shocked. He stopped his movements, turned toward the stranger and called out, "Senior, do you require something?" Guan had warned them that this area belonged to the inner sect. Whenever they encountered another cultivator, they were to address that person respectfully and avoid giving offense. The blue-robed man was not exceptionally handsome, but his bright, penetrating eyes made it difficult for others to meet his gaze. "I merely happened to pass by and saw you practicing. Your spear art is unusual. It contains a method of drawing in spiritual energy while tempering the body. Such techniques are rarely seen." Chu Tongyou jumped down from the tree and walked toward Yan. As he approached, Yan became increasingly nervous. His master was not in the valley. How should he respond? "You still haven't answered me," Chu Tongyou reminded him. His tone remained calm, but that only increased the pressure Yan felt. Yan forced himself to reply, "The medicine valley behind me belongs to my master. It was planted only a month ago. I do not want my cultivation to interfere with the growth of the medicinal herbs." "Did your master teach you this spear art?" "No, it was taught by one of my master's friends. A man capable of befriending such a person cannot be simple." "What is your master's name?" "My master is Guan." As Yan answered, confusion filled his heart. He could not understand what this stranger wanted. Chu Tongyou stopped and beckoned with one hand. "How about a spar? I will not use spiritual energy or magical artifacts. We will compete with technique alone. What do you say?" Yan frowned and hesitated. "Are you afraid?" That single question ignited Yan's fighting spirit. He had not retreated even when facing a powerful demonic cultivator. How could he fear the man before him? At noon the following day, Guan entered the 3rd Medicine Valley through the teleportation formation. He first swept every garden with his divine sense. Only after confirming that nothing was wrong did he look for his disciples. His attention was quickly drawn to Ye Yan, who was practicing near the valley entrance. Guan walked directly toward him. Noticing his approach, Ye Yan turned slightly and presented his back. "Yanner, how did you get injured?" Guan asked as he drew near. Ye Yan hesitated before finally turning around. His face was bruised and swollen. There was even a clear handprint across his left cheek. He described what had happened the previous evening. Guan immediately became furious. Someone had dared to bully his disciple. "What is his name? Will he return?" "I don't know. He never told me. He only said he would come back when he had finished his other business and had time to spare." "Do not be afraid. Your master will support you." Guan patted Ye Yan's shoulder and gave him several healing pills. For the next few days, Guan remained in the third Medicine Valley, but the person who had beaten Ye Yan never appeared. Then Guan left to manage the outer disciples' cave residences. When he returned, Ye Yan had been beaten again. The attacker had left immediately afterward. Over the next 2 months, Ye Yan was beaten 4 times in total. Every incident occurred while Guan was absent. Guan began to suspect that the man was deliberately avoiding him. One afternoon, Guan sat beneath a tree reading. A steep hillside descended below him and connected directly to the valley entrance, allowing him to watch Ye Yan practicing his spear. Suddenly he sensed something. His eyebrow twitched. "Finally, you've come." Under Guan's watchful gaze, a figure flew through the air and landed directly in front of Ye Yan. The moment Ye Yan saw him, his body tensed and he even retreated 2 steps. Chu Tongyou 9th level, core formation realm, 62,900 3,100. It was him. Guan had not expected to encounter Chu Tongyou, the man whose name had recently spread throughout the Taishuan sect. Chu Tongyou had challenged young disciples everywhere and won every one of his 100 battles. His reputation had even reached the outer sect. He came from the Juishan sect, a renowned righteous sect with friendly relations with the Taishuan sect. Because of this, Taishuan's senior cultivators could not conveniently intervene. Chu Tongyou had therefore rampaged throughout the sect for more than half a year, and no one had been able to stop him. Chu Tongyou only challenged others to martial contests and never killed his opponents. He had also declared that he would challenge only cultivators under 100 years old. Many Taishuan cultivators could do nothing but watch, while secretly seething with anger. The entire younger generation of the Taishuan sect had been suppressed by him. No one could criticize the rule he had established. Chu Tongyou himself was still 38 years away from reaching 100. If he challenged a 99-year-old Taishuan disciple, the sect would actually possess the advantage. Yet even under those conditions, no one had defeated him. Chu Tongyou calmly glanced at Guan on the nearby hillside. Guan tucked the book into his robe, stood, and walked down. He positioned himself between Chu Tongyou and Ye Yan, then turned toward the visitor and cupped his hands. "I am Guan, Ye Yan's master. May I ask how my disciple offended you, senior?" Ye Yan stared at Guan standing protectively before him and felt deeply moved. Guan had previously explained that the cultivators in this region were inner disciples, which meant that they had reached the core formation realm. Guan was only at the first level of foundation establishment. Yet he dared to confront a core formation cultivator for Ye Yan's sake. How could Ye Yan not be moved? "You are his master?" Chu Tongyou asked, examining Guan with a frown. "Your cultivation disappoints me. My disciple is only in the qi refining realm. How high could the cultivation of his master possibly be?" Guan replied. Chu Tongyou said lightly, "I was not bullying your disciple. I took an interest in him." The moment he said this, Ye Yan's face turned pale. His mouth opened, but no words emerged. Guan stared at Chu Tongyou. "If you wished to guide him, you could have said so directly. My disciple would have remembered your kindness. Instead, you explained nothing, and struck him heavily. Perhaps you truly intended to teach him, but you certainly looked down upon him. That is why you could not be bothered to explain yourself." If Chu Tongyou had been the greatest genius of the Taishuan sect, Guan might have needed to worry, but he was not. Without cause, Guan had no desire to provoke him. Yet if Chu Tongyou came to bully his people, Guan would not respond with mercy. Chu Tongyou's frown deepened. He wanted to argue, but he knew Guan had judged him correctly. He had indeed looked down upon Ye Yan. His repeated visits had been motivated by nothing more than temporary curiosity. It appears you came to hold me accountable." Chu Tongyou stared coldly at Guan. "Very well. We will use the same rules. No spiritual energy, only technique. If you defeat me, I will apologize to your disciple and give him a complete body tempering cultivation method. What do you say?" "Master, forget it," Ye Yan hurriedly said. No one understood Chu Tongyou's skill better than he did. Even when competing through technique alone, the man's methods were unfathomable. Guan asked, "Technique alone?" "Correct." Seeing Guan tempted, Chu Tongyou smiled, though the expression appeared somewhat fierce. Guan frowned. If you lose, you may not reveal your defeat to anyone, and you must stop disturbing my disciple and me. Chu Tongyou was delighted. He actually wants to compete with me through technique? As you wish. Hurry and choose a weapon. Guan raised his right hand and beckoned through the air. A branch flew from the forest into his grasp. He held it as though drawing a sword, then gestured toward Chu Tongyou with his left hand. Chu Tongyou began walking toward him, and the distance between them steadily narrowed. Yi Yan quickly moved aside, afraid he might interfere with his master. When fewer than 7 steps separated them, Chu Tongyou abruptly accelerated. In a single stride, he appeared before Guan. His right hand formed a fist and drove toward Guan's abdomen. Although he used no spiritual energy, the punch produced the roars of tigers and leopards. Before the fist even touched him, Guan felt a fierce wave of force rushing forward. Whoosh! Chu Tongyou's fist stopped. His pupils contracted violently, and astonishment covered his face. Yi Yan's eyes widened. He could not believe what he had just witnessed. Guan's body leaned slightly backward. The branch in his hand rested against Chu Tongyou's throat, while Chu Tongyou's fist remained 2 feet from Guan's body. If I had been holding a real sword, do you think I could have injured you? Guan asked calmly. Chu Tongyou's expression shifted repeatedly. Several breaths later, he withdrew his fist, and Guan lowered the branch. Chu Tongyou took a deep breath and looked toward Yi Yan. I apologize. I went too far. He removed a manual from his storage bag and threw it to Yi Yan, then turned his gaze back to Guan. Your sword is extraordinarily fast. Who are you? Guan tossed the branch back into the forest. I am merely a cultivator with ordinary spiritual roots. I do not enjoy absorbing spiritual energy, so I spend some of my time practicing the sword. My techniques are not profound, but they are fast enough. If we ignored your restrictions, I would certainly not be your opponent. If Chu Tongyou had refused to honor the agreement, Guan would have made him regret it. But Chu Tongyou had kept his word and apologized to a servant disciple. That caused Guan to view him differently. The man was arrogant, but his nature was not evil. Chu Tongyou's expression changed several times before he gritted his teeth and asked, You truly will not tell anyone what happened today? I do not even know your name. What could I possibly tell them? Guan replied. Chu Tongyou breathed a sigh of relief. He cupped his hands toward Guan, turned and departed even faster than he had arrived. Yi Yan hurried over, his face filled with excitement. Master, I never knew your sword could be so fast. You defeated him in a single move. Guan looked into the valley. Xianxia was absorbing spiritual energy inside her room, while Su Han practiced swordsmanship in the forest more than 10 miles away. Neither had noticed the brief contest. Do not speak of this outside. Treat it as a secret between master and disciple. Do not even tell your senior brother or senior sister, Guan instructed. Yi Yan nodded eagerly. He felt that his bond with his master had become even closer. Teaching Chu Tongyou a lesson was nothing more than a minor interruption to Guan. From now on, he could leave the valley without worry, and no longer needed to remain here guarding Yi Yan. However, 1 month later, Guan returned to the 3rd Medicine Valley, and once again saw Chu Tongyou at the entrance. Yi Yan was practicing his spear, while Chu Tongyou stood nearby observing him. Sensing Guan's gaze, Chu Tongyou immediately brightened and waved enthusiastically. Displeasure flashed in Guan's eyes as he approached. After reaching the entrance, he frowned. Why are you here again? Was this man planning to remain in the Taishuan sect forever? Chu Tongyou said excitedly. I have discovered how to counter your sword move. Come, let us compete again. Didn't you promise not to disturb me? Are you going back on your word? This does not count as disturbing you. How about this name, whatever you want? I only wish to test your technique again, Chu Tongyou hurriedly explained. Yi Yan stood nearby without any injuries. Master, he has been waiting here for 4 days. Guan frowned, appearing deeply hesitant. As though remembering something, Chu Tongyou removed a pouch from his storage bag. These are 4th-grade medicinal seeds. They are all yours. You only need to spar with me once. I am not concerned with victory or defeat. I merely wish to learn from you. Guan accepted the pouch and weighed it in his hand. Then he sighed. Only this once. There will absolutely be no next time, Chu Tongyou said excitedly. Inwardly, he thought, this time, I will defeat you so thoroughly that you have no choice but to accept it. He took a sword from his storage bag and threw it to Guan. This is a mid-grade flying sword, well suited to a foundation establishment cultivator. I give it to you. Use it when you fight me. Then Chu Tongyou drew a long spear. Very good. Was he relying on the principle that a longer weapon possessed greater reach? Guan caught the flying sword and could only smile bitterly. Meeting his gaze, Chu Tongyou looked slightly awkward and hurriedly explained, the rules remain unchanged. No spiritual energy, technique alone. Come. This time, Xianxia and Su Han also heard the commotion and rushed over. Before they reached the entrance, Guan moved first. He directly hurled the flying sword at Chu Tongyou. Chu Tongyou's pupils widened. So fast! Noah's physical strength is enormous. Chu Tongyou twisted aside to evade the sword, then thrust his spear forward because Guan was charging directly behind the flying weapon. In an instant, Guan tilted his head, seized the shaft with his left hand, and pulled it backward. His right hand formed a sword with 2 fingers and pointed toward Chu Tongyou. Everything happened so quickly that even Ye Yan could not follow the exchange. When the 2 men stopped moving, Guan's fingers rested against Chu Tongyou's throat. Chu Tongyou still gripped the spear, but his body had gone rigid. "How can you be so fast? Are you truly only at the first level of Foundation establishment?" he asked through clenched teeth, cold sweat forming across his forehead. Guan replied, "If spiritual energy were permitted, you would be faster than me. Your own rules gave me the advantage. I am fundamentally not your opponent, so why must you insist upon defeating me under these restrictions? Ordinary cultivators like us also possess dignity." He released the spear and withdrew his hand. Chu Tongyou's face turned red. "I never intended to trample upon your dignity. Farewell." He fled almost as though escaping for his life. At that moment, Zhenqin and Su Han arrived. Guan ignored them, picked up the flying sword, and walked back into the valley. In the eyes of his 3 disciples, his retreating figure carried the unmistakable bearing of a hidden master. 1 month later, Chu Tongyou returned again. This time, he had prepared even more medicinal seeds, and Guan could only reluctantly accept them. Guan used 3 moves to defeat him, allowing Chu Tongyou to lose while still seeing a faint trace of hope. Chu Tongyou's generosity made Guan somewhat unwilling to drive him away completely. Time passed quickly, and the end of the year arrived. Winter snow covered Tianya Valley. Guan led the 3 monkey demons through an inspection of the gardens. After finishing, he walked toward the pavilions while examining his accumulated lifespan. Although he had spent much of the year sowing seeds, his lifespan had continued to grow at a respectable rate. The outer disciples' cave residences and Mystic Valley had still provided a considerable harvest. In several more years, Tianya Valley and the 3rd Medicine Valley would begin producing mature herbs. At that point, his lifespan income would rise rapidly. As Guan reached the pavilion, Luo Hun approached with an embarrassed expression. "Why haven't you brought any books recently?" he asked hesitantly. "You want books? I thought you disliked them." "Tianya Valley is dull. One needs something to relax the Tao heart." "Very well. Next time I will bring you the newest volume of Investiture of the Gods." Ahem, bringing several volumes of the Wandering Hero's Travels would also be acceptable. Seeing Luo Hun's awkward expression, Guan suddenly understood. So this fellow had such tastes. Why had he not said so earlier? Guan immediately patted him on the shoulder and laughed. "Brother Luo, I never expected us to share the same interests. To tell you the truth, compared with the battles and struggles over Tao lineages and Investiture of the Gods, I prefer the quiet relationships between people and journeys through mountains and rivers that broaden one's horizons. Those experiences truly temper the Tao heart." Luo Hun's embarrassment faded and a smile appeared on his face. The 2 began discussing the Wandering Hero's travels and their relationship grew closer. Nevertheless, Luo Hun remained cautious. He did not dare discuss the romantic encounters in the book. Instead, he focused only on strange landscapes and unusual events. His effort to appear solemn made Guan find him increasingly amusing. From now on, Tianya Valley would no longer feel quite so dull. Time flowed like water, and 3 years quickly passed. Midsummer arrived once more. Guan was now 38 years old. Beginning this year, the 3rd Medicine Valley would produce its first mature crop, and he looked forward to it greatly. Tianya Valley, however, had been planted entirely with high-grade medicinal herbs, so its harvest would require more time. Early one morning, Guan was leading the disciples through their exercises in Mystic Valley. Although Zhenqin and the other 2 had moved to the 3rd Medicine Valley, Mystic Valley had recruited 3 new servant disciples, so it remained as lively as ever. Guan was twisting his waist when he suddenly sensed something and smiled. Xiaoxuan noticed the expression and asked, "Senior brother, what are you smiling about?" "It's nothing. Keep training," Guan replied casually. Xiaoxuan could only let the matter go. A while later, the training session ended and the disciples dispersed. Guan also began walking back toward his pavilion. Just as he reached the lower floor, the sound of rushing wind came from the distance. He turned and saw someone approaching on a flying sword. It was Li Ya. They had not seen each other for many years. Li Ya still wore black, but his bearing had changed. A single strand of silver hair fell across his forehead, giving him a more weathered appearance. When Li Ya saw Guan from afar, a smile spread across his cold face, like an iceberg melting beneath sunlight. He had reached the 9th level of Foundation establishment. Guan also sensed that he was stronger than Jilin had been in the past. He was probably not far from core formation. After landing, Li Ya opened his arms and pulled Guan into an embrace, causing Guan's body to stiffen slightly. "Not bad. You actually established your foundation. It seems you worked very hard. Li Ya gripped Guan's shoulders and spoke with a satisfied smile. Guan smoothly escaped from his clutches. You finally returned. Did everything go well? Li Ya shook his head. Not at all, but I suppose fortune emerged from disaster. Let us speak inside. Guan nodded and led him upstairs. Sometime later, the two sat opposite one another in the pavilion, drinking wine. After listening to Li Ya recount everything he had experienced over the past several years, Guan felt deeply moved. It sounds as though the entire journey could be written into a book, he commented. Li Ya laughed. That is true, I escaped death several times, but those experiences forged the person I am today. During those years, Li Ya had traveled south in search of the inheritance left by a divine transformation cultivator. He had competed against talented cultivators from many regions, and barely fought his way through their encirclement. In the end, however, the divine transformation expert had attempted to seize his body. Fortunately, Li Ya turned danger into opportunity. He did not explain how he had survived the possession attempt, but Guan suspected it was related to the soul hidden within him. After escaping that danger, Li Ya comprehended a strand of sword intent inside the expert's cave residence. He accumulated and refined it for 3 years until sword intent permeated his entire body. He could truly be said to have undergone a complete transformation. Later, while returning from Guizhou in the south, he encountered further hardships. On one occasion, he happened upon a young woman being oppressed by a local cultivation family. Li Ya intervened and rescued her. Unfortunately, after he left, he later heard that the woman and her family had been driven to their deaths. The tragedy spread widely among the people. Li Ya returned and slaughtered the Fang family responsible, throwing the entire province into turmoil. The local authorities pursued him for several days before abandoning the effort. They even withdrew the arrest order. When Li Ya recounted that part of his journey, his voice contained little sorrow, only a faint coldness. Guan poured him another cup of wine. Li Ya suddenly asked, Junior brother Gu, what do you think cultivation is truly for? Is it only the pursuit of some distant and illusory immortality? From ancient times until now, has anyone actually lived forever? Guan poured wine for himself as he replied, I do not know what cultivators are supposed to pursue. I only know that while we are alive, we should live in a way that brings us peace. Whatever allows you to live comfortably, do that. I spend my days planting flowers and tending herbs. In the eyes of many people, I am wasting years that should be devoted to cultivation. But I find this life interesting. The medicinal herbs I grow help the sect, so my life still possesses meaning, doesn't it? Guan did not consider Li Ya strange. After experiencing enough hardship, anyone could become uncertain about the path ahead. Li Ya held his wine cup and fell into deep thought. He remained silent for half an hour. Guan did not disturb him and instead took out the Wandering Hero's Travels to read. When Li Ya finally finished thinking, his eyes had become bright. He raised his head and looked at Guan. The greatest truths have never belonged solely to lofty halls. Junior brother Gu, thank you. I believe I now know what I should do. He stood and removed a small white jade bottle from his storage bag. These pills were refined from 1,000-year spirit fungus. They temper the bones and muscles. You should take no more than 2 each year. I must return and prepare to form my core. Without waiting for Guan to stop him, Li Ya jumped directly through the window and departed. Guan fell silent. Why did this fellow enjoy leaving through windows so much? His gaze shifted to the small white jade bottle on the table. Why did everyone insist on giving him gifts? Helplessness appeared on Guan's face, but he still placed the bottle into his storage bag. Summer nights came late. When Guan entered the third Medicine Valley, his attention was immediately drawn to a pavilion in the distance. Zhen Qin, Su Han, Ye Yan, and Chu Tongyou sat around a table, chatting cheerfully. Guan walked toward them. Chu Tongyou was speaking at a measured pace when he glanced over and smiled. The others followed his gaze, and the 3 disciples hurriedly stood. Arriving before the pavilion, Guan pretended to be angry. Why are you here again? Have you still not emptied your storage bag? 3 years had passed. Chu Tongyou had visited at least 10 times, bringing medicinal herbs, pills, or magical artifacts on every occasion. During their previous contest, Guan had required 10 moves to defeat him and had won only with great difficulty. Yes, pretending to struggle had indeed been difficult. Chu Tongyou smiled. Do not worry. I did not come to spar this time. I came to say farewell. I must leave. After spending so many years in the Taishuan sect, you are the only genuine friend I have made. You are also someone I truly respect. A friend? Guan did not know how to respond. Yi Yan looked at Chu Tongyou with reluctance. Over the years, Chu Tongyou had guided his cultivation whenever he visited. To Yi Yan, he could almost be considered half a master. What do you mean by spending so many years in the Taishuan sect? Zhen Qin asked with wide eyes. Are you not a Taishuan disciple? Su Han and Ye Yan also became alert. The same thought appeared in all 3 minds. Could this man be a demonic spy? Chu Tongyou smiled proudly. Very well. I intended to remain modest because I feared placing too much pressure on you. Since we are parting, I will no longer conceal myself. I am Chu Tongyou of the Jushan sect. The three disciples froze. Their reaction filled Chu Tongyou with satisfaction. He even lifted his chin proudly and looked toward Guan, hoping to see astonishment on his face. Guan's apparent shock immediately sent Chu Tongyou's mood soaring. Then Zhen Qin suddenly asked, "Are you very famous?" Chu Tongyou's eyes slowly widened, and his entire body went rigid. Guan feared he might change his mind and decide to remain, so he quickly said, "He is extremely famous. He suppressed the entire younger generation of the Taishuan sect. I never expected, forgive my lack of respect." Chu Tongyou's expression eased. Under Guan's meaningful gaze, Zhen Qin and the other two began exclaiming one after another. "Heavens, did I hear correctly? So it was actually you. How is that possible?" Chu Tongyou's face twitched. For some reason, their praise sounded painfully forced. He took a deep breath. The Taishuan sect is about to undergo a major upheaval. Be careful in the coming days. The mountains remain green and the rivers flow on. If fate permits, we will meet again. With that, he leapt into the air, transformed into a streak of red light, and vanished into the sky. The three disciples were stunned by his movement technique and stared blankly in the direction he had gone. Guan waved his hand, "Disperse. Cultivate properly and establish your foundations as soon as possible. Do not reach a point where you no longer even possess the qualifications to meet him again." The three hurriedly bowed and left. Guan continued thinking about Chu Tongyou's warning. The Taishuan sect was about to face a major change. He only hoped it would not affect his medicine valleys. He turned and walked to his pavilion. After entering his room, he closed the door, sat at the writing desk, and took out paper and brush. He began considering the story of Guzong and his son. The final volume of Investiture of the Gods had already been delivered to the library hall. It was time to write something new. He certainly intended to write Journey to the West after Investiture of the Gods, but he feared its influence would be too great. For the moment, he decided to set it aside. He would first write a novel about Guzong and his son to lower the temperature surrounding Panon and make the mysterious author seem less divine. Recently, outer disciples had begun praising Panon as an immortal walking among mortals. That made Guan uneasy. For his second book, he planned to use classic plotlines from the online novels he had read in his previous life. Guzong had cultivated for 500 years and become renowned throughout the cultivation world as the strongest elder of the Taishuan sect. In the year his Dao companion gave birth to their youngest son, the demonic path invaded, and the Taishuan sect faced annihilation. Guzong unleashed his divine ability and summoned the power of heaven and earth, destroying the demonic forces. However, he was swallowed by the spatial rift created by his own technique. The world believed him dead. In truth, he fell onto a deserted island beyond the sea and unexpectedly discovered an immortal inheritance. 20 years later, Guzong returned, only to discover that his son Gu Yu had been demoted to a servant disciple because someone had stolen his heavenly spiritual root. Chu Tongyou was the same age as Gu Yu, and the two had been close since childhood. Even after Gu Yu's fall, Chu Tongyou continued waiting for his brother to rise again. After centuries of grudges, battles, and intertwined destinies, the two became pillars of the Taishuan sect and protected peace throughout the cultivation world. After arranging the story in his mind, Guan's eyes shone with energy. He lowered his brush to the paper. Chapter 1. The Fallen Genius. In the spring of the second year after Chu Tongyou's departure, Guan traveled to the outer sect to submit his manuscript. Liu Chang showed great interest in the book titled Taishuan Immortal Venerable and kept Guan there for a long conversation. As Guan left the library hall, he heard passing disciples discussing shocking news. Sectmaster Liu Badian had suffered cultivation deviation and died unexpectedly. Elder Chu Tianqi had assumed the position of sectmaster. Guan was alarmed. Had the sectmaster been killed? He hurried out of the outer city and rushed to the third medicine valley. Upon entering, he found Gu Yu waiting for him. Behind Gu Yu stood a hunched old man, thin as a stick, with white hair and worn cloth robes. The old man was examining the various gardens. When Gu Yu saw Guan arriving on his sword, he stood and smiled. "You finally returned. This man is a distant relative of my father. You may call him Old Tien. His spiritual root aptitude is ordinary, and he has no hope of establishing his foundation in this lifetime. From now on, he will remain in the Medicine Valley as your assistant. Assign him whatever work you wish." Guan looked toward the old man, and his gaze changed slightly. Liu Bei 6th level, Qi Refining Realm, 750-3200. Liu Beishan, was this not the sect master who had supposedly just died? Countless possibilities flashed through Guan's mind, but his expression barely changed. "If he is a distant relative of your father, why not arrange a better place for him?" Guan asked curiously. "My medicine valley is dirty, and the work is exhausting." Gu Yu laughed. "The Taishuan sect was not built by my father. Being assigned to this medicine valley is already far better than working in an outer medicine valley. Judging by his expression, Yu did not know Old Tian's true identity. Guan could not directly refuse. If he did, would that not reveal that he had somehow recognized the old man? Yu pulled him toward the pavilion. From beginning to end, Old Tian never once turned to look at Guan. After entering the room, Yu closed the door and asked excitedly, "Well, is the book finished?" Guan smiled. "It is. After careful consideration, I made you the protagonist. Truly? Truly, you will see it soon." Guan smiled and nodded. Pan An's name had already spread throughout the Taichung cultivation world. Once he released a second novel, the Taishuan sect would certainly promote it with all its strength, especially since the book prominently carried the sect's name. This book could be considered his way of satisfying the sect's upper ranks. After completing it, Guan had no intention of writing about them again. It was worth mentioning that the library hall had granted him an additional 20% share of the profits from this publication. That concession had come directly from the Taishuan sect. The moment Yu heard that he was the protagonist, his spirits soared. He took out a spirit stone and placed it heavily upon the table. "Thank you." Guan looked at the stone and narrowed his eyes slightly. The spiritual energy within it was astonishingly dense. Yu smiled proudly. "This is a supreme-grade spirit stone. Its value is equivalent to 100 high-grade spirit stones. I possess only 2, both gifts from my mother. Is that sincere enough? Write without worry. Besides, if you encounter any problem, I can help you resolve it." 100 high-grade spirit stones? Guan could not help feeling tempted. This fellow was truly generous. The disparity between rich and poor in the cultivation world was enormous. A single supreme-grade spirit stone was worth 1 million low-grade spirit stones, while a servant disciple received only 1 low-grade spirit stone as monthly pay. He was truly the son of a wealthy family. Guan felt somewhat bitter inside, but he accepted the stone and smiled. "I will not disappoint you." Yu became even more excited and began pressing him for details about the novel. Guan kept his mouth tightly closed, making him all the more eager to read it. Yu did not remain for long. After he left, Guan suspected he had gone directly to the library hall. Once Yu was gone, Guan approached Old Tian and introduced himself. Old Tian did the same. His attitude was extremely respectful and gave no indication that he had once been the master of the Taishuan sect. Old Tian was 742 years old, while his current lifespan limit was 850. In other words, he had only 108 years left to live. Guan suspected this was related to his injuries. At the sect master's true realm, his remaining lifespan should have been close to 2,000 years, at the very least. Guan then guided him through the valley, explaining the gardens and the daily tasks that needed to be completed. Old Tian listened carefully and occasionally asked questions about the medicinal herbs they passed. He seemed genuinely interested in the life of a gardener. Could he truly have suffered cultivation deviation and fallen to his present realm? When Guan first heard the news, he had instinctively assumed the sect master had been plotted against. The struggle between the sect master and the elders had continued for many years. Yet, Old Tian's present condition suggested another possibility. The lifespan detection ability could not deceive Guan. The old man before him was unquestionably sect master Liu Beishan. Old Tian's arrival did not alter the rhythm of the Third Medicine Valley. Zhen Qin and the others spent most of their time cultivating and rarely spoke with him. Only Guan made a point of conversing with Old Tian whenever he returned. Half a year passed quickly. Autumn arrived, and fallen leaves drifted into Tianya Valley. Guan stood on a narrow garden path, watching the 3 monkey demons sweep the dry leaves. In the distance, Luo Hun sat on a hillside reading the wandering hero's travels with complete concentration. His spear stood upright beside him while strands of spiritual energy flowed into it, creating an invisible vortex. Suddenly, Guan noticed something and glanced into the distance. He looked only once before withdrawing his gaze. Not long afterward, a figure entered through the valley mouth. He wore flowing robes of black and white, carried a folding fan, and walked with calm elegance. Li Xuandao. Many years had passed, yet the Emperor of Taikang appeared as composed as ever. Guan turned and used lifespan detection. 9th level of the divine transformation realm. On the hillside, Luo Hun also noticed Li Xuandao's arrival. He hurriedly stood, stuffed the wandering hero's travels into his storage bag, shouldered his spear, and descended the mountain. Luo Hun first approached the emperor and bowed, then came toward Guan. As Li Xuandao walked toward the valley pavilions, he looked at Guan beside him. "Well, are you satisfied with my medicine valley?" "It is excellent and far beyond my expectations," Guan replied. "I had never even heard of some of these high-grade medicinal herbs. Fortunately, your majesty provided a comprehensive herbal record." Have you forgotten what I told you?" "Uncle." "That is better." Li Xuandao laughed loudly. Standing on the other side, Luo Hun froze. "Uncle?" He seemed to think of something, and his gaze became peculiar. The three chatted as they reached the pavilion. Li Xuandao sat beside a stone table, and Luo Hun immediately poured wine for him. Li Xuandao gestured for Guan to sit as well. Li Ya has already returned to the Taishuan sect, hasn't he? Guan nodded. He returned last year. Did he tell you what he experienced over the past several years? He did. Uncle, surely you had people following him? How could I dare send anyone to follow him? I simply possess eyes and ears in many places. Tell me this. How could a mere foundation establishment cultivator escape an attempt by a divine transformation expert to seize his body? What secret is he hiding? As Li Xuandao spoke, he lifted his wine cup, drained it in one swallow, and smiled at Guan. Guan frowned. A secret? He never told me anything, and I cannot directly interrogate him. Li Xuandao smiled ambiguously. That son of mine possessed ordinary aptitude from childhood. Among all my children, he may have been the least talented. Yet after entering the Taishuan sect, he soared into the heavens and has continued bringing me surprises. I am naturally pleased to see him grow. I merely fear that someone with malicious intentions may be using him. Looking into the Emperor's eyes, Guan suddenly found it difficult to judge his true attitude toward Li Ya. Regardless, Guan's sympathies remained with Li Ya. I will find an opportunity to ask him indirectly, Guan said after a moment of thought. He was only saying it. He had no intention of actually questioning Li Ya. Li Xuandao nodded in satisfaction. He then turned toward Luo Hun. Luo Hun, do you believe Li Ya possesses the bearing of a successor? Luo Hun's expression changed. This general does not dare overstep his position. You are truly dull. Li Xuandao shook his head with a laugh. The emperor's gaze shifted toward Guan, who hurriedly said, Uncle, do not ask me such questions. I have no desire to invite trouble. I only want to plant flowers and herbs for you. Ha ha ha! Li Xuandao burst into laughter. He lifted a nearby wine jar and poured it directly into his mouth, displaying far more boldness than before. Then he took another jar and continued drinking. Guan realized something was wrong. The emperor clearly had something weighing upon his mind. Luo Hun noticed as well and frowned. Your Majesty, has something happened? Li Xuandao emptied 3 jars in succession before smiling. Nothing particularly serious. You have both read Investiture of the Gods, haven't you? Luo Hun nodded. It is exceptionally well written. Does your Majesty not enjoy it as well? I do. However, certain people have recently begun using Investiture of the Gods to attack me. They claim that I am King Zhou, that the Li family has ruled for 500 years, and that another clan should now occupy the throne. They say the mandate of heaven has passed to the Ji family. In recent years, the Ji family has repeatedly dispatched its descendants to eliminate demons and protect the people. Their reputation has grown, and they have won considerable public support. Li Xuandao spoke with a faint smile. Guan's heart tightened. Luo Hun became furious. Your Majesty, who dares claim that the mandate of heaven belongs to the Ji family? This general awaits your command. Even if you order me to kill Panon, I will go. Wonderful. I am never bringing you the wandering hero's travels again. Guan was furious inside, though his face displayed only concern. Li Xuandao said lightly, Fool. If I kill Panon, would that not prove that I am narrow-minded and incapable of tolerating even a writer? Guan was extremely satisfied with this response. Now this was the conduct of an enlightened ruler. Your Majesty, do not be afraid. My next great book will be Journey to the West, and the emperor in that story will also bear the surname Li. Journey to the West contained criticism, but most of it was aimed at the Jade Emperor. The portrayal of Li Shimin remained favorable. There was no heavenly court in this world, but there was a cultivation world. Criticizing that world would serve equally well and match the expectations cultivators now held for Panon, as long as Guan did not name the Taishuan sect directly. While Guan considered this, Luo Hun remained visibly enraged. The governors of the various provinces have all built forces of their own and increasingly ignore the imperial court. Li Xuandao continued. Complaints now rise from every direction, and they are using Investiture of the Gods to attack me. I suspect this is only their first step. One day their swords will hang before my face. I must cultivate a force that belongs solely to me. Tianya Valley will play a vital role. Do not disappoint me. Li Xuandao smiled, stood, and walked toward the gardens. Guan and Luo Hun hurriedly followed. The emperor remained for 3 days before departing. Throughout those 3 days, he repeatedly found opportunities to reveal his expectations for Li Ya. The more he did so, the more Guan felt that the situation was not simple. Guan treated the words like passing wind and refused to interfere in matters between father and son. After Li Xuandao left, Guan also prepared to depart. Before he went, Luo Hun reminded him not to bring Investiture of the Gods in the future. The wandering hero's travels alone would be as enough. Guan burst into laughter. The seasons turned, and another 3 years passed. That year, Tianya Valley produced its first mature crop. Guan harvested nearly 5,000 years of lifespan in a single sweep, putting him in an excellent mood. From that year onward, his annual lifespan income would rise sharply. His total accumulated lifespan had already surpassed 70,000 years, and he would continue striving toward 1 million. One day, Guan brought Suhan and Zhenqin to the outer sect. Both had entered the Foundation Establishment realm. In addition to guiding their cultivation over the years, Guan had refined many low-grade pills that helped them complete their breakthroughs smoothly. He escorted them to the outer Elders' Hall, and then turned to leave. Servant disciples had to register their new identities there before they could officially become outer disciples. As Guan crossed a narrow street, a familiar voice called out, "Senior brother, it has been a long time." Guan turned and saw Lu Jujia approaching in the black robes of the Demon Extermination Hall. 6 other Demon Extermination disciples followed behind him. "How have you been?" Guan asked with a smile. Since the change of sect master, the Demon Extermination Hall had become increasingly powerful, even overshadowing the Law Enforcement Hall. Its disciples could be seen everywhere in the outer city. Lu Jujia stopped before him and nodded. "Very well. My master recently promoted me. My treatment has improved, and I possess greater authority. Senior brother, if you ever need anything, come to me." He removed a black command token from his storage bag and handed it to Guan. Guan accepted the Demon Extermination Hall token without refusing. He looked at Lu Jujia and smiled warmly. "Not bad. You are finally living the life you once wanted." Hearing that, Lu Jujia became even more relaxed. "For several years, I truly felt as though I was walking across thin ice. I did not dare contact you because I feared implicating you. Now the storm has passed, and the sky is clear again. We can visit one another frequently in the future." After exchanging a few more words, Lu Jujia led his men away in a hurry, claiming they needed to pursue a demonic spy. Guan watched him leave with complicated emotions. The Demon Extermination Hall possessed a terrible reputation. It was both the most powerful department in the outer sect and the most hated. According to rumors, anyone who offended its members could be branded a demonic spy and condemned to death. Guan clearly felt the disgusted looks that surrounding disciples directed toward him after seeing the token. He did not dwell upon it and turned away. Half an hour later, he arrived at the third Medicine Valley. As soon as he reached the entrance, he saw Old Yen standing before the stone stele, stroking his beard while lost in thought. Over the past several years, Guan and Old Yen had become familiar with one another. The old man behaved exactly like a servant disciple. Zhenqin, Suhan, and Ye Yan never noticed anything unusual, and Guan also treated him as an ordinary worker of the valley. "Old Tian, why are you standing here?" Guan called as he approached. Old Tian looked toward him with a gentle smile. His eyelids were nearly closed, making him appear as though he already had 1 foot in the grave. "Valley Master, I was wondering why this place is called the Third Medicine Valley. Do you possess 2 others?" Guan stopped beside the stele and smiled. "Not exactly. Apart from this valley, I have only 1 other Medicine Valley. I named this one the Third Medicine Valley to express my principle for dealing with the world. I do not compete for 1st or 2nd place, but I am willing to compete for 3rd. Anything too conspicuous will attract trouble. All 3 leading positions are impressive, but 3rd place is the safest." Old Tian's eyelids opened slightly, and he fell into thought. Guan patted him on the shoulder. "I brought roasted chicken and good wine today. Let us share them. This is a spirit chicken raised in the outer sect. 1 bird cost me 10 low-grade spirit stones." Old Tian returned to his senses and followed. Yi Yan was not practicing at the valley entrance. Instead, he stood on a narrow path between the gardens, holding his long spear in one hand with his eyes closed. According to him, he was meditating upon the connection between himself and his weapon. Guan had never questioned him about his spear art or body tempering method. He had no interest in spear technique, and the mystic yellow dragon chi art was already a body tempering cultivation method. There was no need for him to study another. "Yaner, come drink with us. We are celebrating your senior brother and senior sister becoming outer disciples," Guan called loudly. Old Tian asked curiously, "Over the years, you have refined nearly all your medicinal herbs into pills for your disciples. What exactly are you seeking? Even if they remember your kindness now, relationships often fade with time. Why not devote those resources to yourself? And what about me? I am already an old pile of bones and do not know how much longer I will live. Are pills given to me not wasted?" After living together for several years, Old Tian had developed a favorable impression of Guan. Guan treated him well, never looked down upon him as other disciples might, and even shared pills that helped raise his cultivation. Before losing his realm, Old Tian could never have imagined that such a selfless person existed within the Taishuan sect. He even regretted how little attention he had once paid to the outer sect. Guan smiled. "My aptitude is ordinary. If I become too obsessed with raising my cultivation, I will only make myself miserable. I would rather give those resources to younger people who still possess hope. As for you, Old Tian, even though you are older than me, you are still one of the disciples under my care. Naturally, I must treat everyone equally. Even if the pills cannot raise your cultivation by much, they can strengthen your vitality and help you live more comfortably. Is that not worthwhile? He looked toward Yi Yan with a smile. Sunlight fell upon Guan's face, and the sight stirred something within old Tian. He suddenly remembered what Gu Zong had said when recommending Guan. Do not be deceived by that young man's low cultivation. The fact that he could write Investiture of the Gods proves the breadth of his heart. Even after gaining wealth and fame, he remained in a medicine valley and continued contributing tirelessly to the Taishuan sect. In character and bearing, I believe he surpasses even many great cultivators of the void-crossing realm. As he remembered those words, the corners of old Tian's mouth slowly lifted, as though Guan's smile had infected him. Before long, the three sat around a stone table, drinking wine and eating meat. Guan recounted everything he had witnessed that day. Besides mentioning Zhen Qin and Su Han, he deliberately spoke about the demon extermination hall, hoping to observe old Tian's reaction. Old Tian remained indifferent. He merely held a chicken leg and repeatedly praised its flavor. Yi Yan said, I actually think the demon extermination hall is beneficial. Back in Mystic Valley, we encountered demonic cultivators several times. The outer sect truly was too chaotic. Their reputation may be poor, but demonic spies could also be spreading rumors in the shadows. Guan nodded. That was certainly possible. Since the demon extermination hall had been founded, Mystic Valley had not encountered another demonic cultivator. No agents of the Thousand Autumn Pavilion had come looking for him either. Master, after I establish my foundation, I do not want to remain in the Taish sect, Qian suddenly said. I want to join the army. Wonderful. He was declaring his intention to leave directly in front of the former sect master. Why? Guan asked. Qian's expression became resolute. The Taishuan sect values spiritual root aptitude. Someone like me will find it difficult to gain a place here. In the army, I can kill demons, eliminate evil spirits, and protect the people. My parents were killed by a demon beast. Since childhood, I have sworn that once I learned cultivation arts, I would travel the world as a wandering hero who slays demons and protects the innocent. Old Tian looked up at him and nodded faintly. Guan smiled. I never expected you to possess such ambition. Your master supports you. Ye Yan smiled and lifted his bowl to toast Guan. Then he poured another and clinked bowls with old Tian. The atmosphere became increasingly warm. After opening his heart, Ye Yan spoke far more than usual, and even old Tian became more talkative. Master, should we transfer more disciples from Mystic Valley in the future? Yi Yan asked. We will discuss that after you establish your foundation. I am afraid others might disturb your comprehension. Old Tian and I are enough for now. The gardens had already entered a stable cycle, and there were not many daily chores. Hearing this, Yi Yan became even more moved. Guan began discussing the future with him. Jar after jar of spirit wine was emptied, until Yi Yan collapsed in a drunken stupor. By late summer, the oppressive heat between heaven and earth had begun to fade. Guan stood on the grasslands of Mystic Valley, silently watching 4 demon extermination hall cultivators fly away. Wuxin approached him. Senior brother, what are you waiting for? There are so many chests. Aren't you going to inspect them? The 4 men had been sent by Lu Jujia specifically to deliver gifts to Mystic Valley. They had waited for half a day until Guan returned before finally departing. Guan withdrew his gaze and smiled at Wuxin. You can inventory them. They are probably all medicinal herbs. A smile appeared on Wuxin's face. The feeling of being trusted was wonderful. Guan had already handed all management authority over Mystic Valley to Wuxin, and now took responsibility only for harvesting. Wuxin had no objection. Guan was helping shoulder part of the work, so how could he complain? What Wuxin wanted was authority, not Guan's departure. Whenever Guan was absent, Mystic Valley seemed to lack something. For that reason, Wuxin spent most of those periods cultivating rather than celebrating his independence. Guan turned and walked toward the teleportation platform. A short while later, he arrived at the 3rd Medicine Valley. Since Zhen Qin and Su Han had become outer disciples, the valley had grown extremely quiet. Ye Yan practiced his spear as soon as his work was finished, while old Tian was also a man of few words. Guan stepped down from the teleportation platform and saw old Tian crouching in a garden, tending a 4th-grade medicinal plant. The old man frequently became lost in thought, and Guan had grown accustomed to it. He went upstairs and took out the Ziwei formation records. For nearly a year, he had secretly studied the text and gained several insights. A few double hours later, Guan sensed something. He put the formation records into his storage bag and waited inside the room. Guan! Guan! Hurry and come out! Gu Yu's shout sounded in the distance and rapidly grew louder. The fellow had begun yelling before he even landed. Guan stood and walked onto the 2nd-floor balcony. Gu Zong and Gu Yu were approaching on a golden wheel at extraordinary speed. After landing, Gu Zong drew the artifact into his sleeve. Gu Yu stepped forward excitedly. Guan Yu. Ahem. Gu Zong coughed deliberately. Gu Yu realized something and immediately fell silent. Standing above them, Guan smiled. Both of you should come upstairs. We can speak inside. Gu Yu nodded and hurried up. Guzong turned and waved toward Old Tian. The four gathered in the second-floor room. Guzong cast a spell and placed 2 restrictions over the windowsill. Gu Yu pulled Guan into a seat and said excitedly, "Taishuan Immortal Venerable has become a complete sensation. The entire cultivation world is watching it. Even neighboring dynasties and sects are sending people to the Taishuan sect to purchase copies." Ha ha ha! When Taishuan Immortal Venerable was first released several years ago, countless people mocked Pan On and claimed he had exhausted his talent. Yet only a few years later, they are all rushing to read it and waiting for me, Gu Yu, to prove my reputation as a peerless genius. Seeing his excitement, Guan did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was not surprised by the novel's success. Stories of defying fate, rising from humiliation, and striking powerful enemies across the face produced an enormous emotional impact upon cultivators. Guzong spoke. "We did not come merely to discuss the book. The matter is connected to it. The Holy Maiden of the Doshan sect intends to cultivate at the Taishuan sect, and she is coming because of you. The Doshan sect belongs to the Great Yu dynasty, which neighbors Taikong, and it is the leading sect of that dynasty. Their Holy Maiden is the youngest daughter of the Doshan sect's leader. Her presence could help the Taishuan sect and Doshan sect establish a lasting alliance. When the time comes, I will bring her to meet you. Do not worry. This matter will not spread, and you need only speak with her privately. She has promised not to reveal your identity." Guan felt a headache coming on. Had he become an important instrument of diplomacy? Guzong stroked his beard and smiled. "Taishuan Immortal Venerable has greatly advanced the development of the Taishuan sect. The Elders' Hall thinks very highly of you. If you persuade the Doshan Holy Maiden to remain, they will reward you with a sapling from a 7th-grade spirit tree. Once mature, it will significantly increase the spiritual energy of the surrounding area. No matter how ordinary your aptitude may be, reaching the core formation realm in the future would no longer be difficult. They originally intended to reward you with a high-grade cultivation method or magical artifact. However, Yuer explained that you dislike conflict and care only about planting vegetables and raising pigs, so they changed the reward to a 7th-grade spirit tree. It will also benefit the harvest of the entire Medicine Valley. Its value is immeasurable. A 7th-grade tree was on the same level as the Azure Vine Tree. The Taishuan sect could actually produce a spirit tree comparable to the sacred tree of the Thousand Autumn Pavilion? Could the Azure Vine Tree inside the 8 Centuries Cave Heaven be an incomplete sacred tree, or had it simply not reached full maturity? Guan immediately became excited. He truly could not refuse such a treasure. How difficult could it be to persuade the Holy Maiden to remain? Did she not enjoy reading? He could write several side stories for investiture of the gods, especially for her. "When will the Holy Maiden arrive?" Guan asked after taking a deep breath. He concealed his delight and instead wore a troubled, contemplative expression. Guzong smiled. "No more than a year from now. There is no need to place pressure upon yourself." Gu Yu teased from the side. "Do not worry that she will demand you repay her with your body. The difference in cultivation is obvious. She is interested only in your books." Guan nodded. He was not narcissistic enough to imagine otherwise. Countless people across the world enjoyed investiture of the gods. Guzong turned toward Old Tian. "How have you been here?" Old Tian nodded. "Very well. The Valley Master treats me kindly." Guan felt helpless inside. Guzong had brought a supposed distant relative into the valley. Did he not fear Guan would become suspicious? No. Since Guan had begun acting, he needed to carry the performance to the end. He looked toward Guzong with an expression that suggested he wished to speak but hesitated. Guzong seemed to understand his concern and smiled. "He already knows that you are Pan On. I allowed him to come here precisely because he loves investiture of the gods. Apart from him, only members of the Elders' Hall know your identity. Rest assured. At present, we are even more afraid than you are that Pan On's identity will be exposed." Before investiture of the gods appeared, disciples had always written books. Yet Pan On had created an unprecedented sensation. No one had imagined that a novel could attract more disciples and cultivation resources to a sect, much less help it establish relations with other powers. After the release of Taishuan Immortal Venerable, attention from across the world had turned toward the Taishuan sect. From his position among the upper ranks, Guzong saw the benefits more clearly than anyone. Guan sighed. Gu Yu suddenly said, "Chu Tongyou treats Gu Yu very well in the story. I withdraw what I said before. Do not have Gu Yu bully him." Guan looked at him strangely. Guzong laughed. "My portrayal is also quite impressive. Wherever I go, I hear people mentioning my name and asking when it will return to punish the villain who tormented my son. Ahem. We cannot reveal that too soon. It would ruin the story." "That is true." Gu An changed the subject and began asking about the Holy Maiden of the Daotian sect. He needed to understand her as thoroughly as possible if he wanted to handle the meeting properly. Gu Zong began introducing her. Shenzhen possessed 3 spiritual roots and was the youngest daughter of the Daotian sect's leader. Her cultivation aptitude was not considered exceptional, but her comprehension of music and magical arts was extremely high. She normally enjoyed the zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. After hearing this description, Guan felt that Shenzhen probably did not possess an overbearing personality. Someone who enjoyed music, chess, books, and painting ought to be reasonably gentle. Late at night, inside the 8 Centuries cave heaven, Guan practiced swordsmanship beneath the azure vine tree. He was training the wood spirit sword art. Zhuo Lin had taught him this technique while testing his skill. It was not particularly rare and could be purchased within the outer city. Because it was a wood-attributed sword art, Guan intended to cultivate it personally rather than invest lifespan. Then again, was time spent in reality truly any different from lifespan? With his mastery of the Tong Shocking God Sword and his current Supreme Grade 5 Elements Heavenly Spiritual Roots, Guan felt like a genuine genius whenever he practiced the wood spirit sword art. He had already mastered the basic technique and was now pursuing a higher level. Every cultivation method, spell, and ultimate art contained smaller stages of mastery. Based on Guan's own summary, they progressed from newly learned, initial understanding, entering the hall, minor accomplishment, integrated mastery, perfection, peak perfection, and finally a return to simplicity. It felt like playing a game and constantly increasing a proficiency score, which Guan found highly entertaining. The Hao dragon, now 10 feet long, watched intently from a branch. It had finally developed the majestic bearing of a true dragon, and no longer appeared to be growing in an unfortunate direction. Guan moved within a 30-foot area beneath the tree, leaving afterimages behind him. It looked as though nearly 10 versions of Guan were practicing at once. The Tiansu sword in his hand was incomparably sharp. Waves of force spread in every direction, but each dispersed after traveling 20 feet, leaving the surrounding flowers and plants unharmed. Only after a full double hour did Guan stop. Clang. The Tiansu sword returned to its scabbard with a soft ringing that resembled a dragon's cry. He placed it into his storage bag and stretched tiredly. The Hao dragon swooped down and spoke in the young voice of a child. "Master, that was amazing. Can you teach me?" Guan glanced at it and smiled. "Can your dragon claws hold a sword?" "Why can't I use my claws as swords?" the Hao dragon asked, blinking its large eyes. Guan froze. That actually made sense. He removed a copy of the Wood Spirit Sword Art Manual that he had illustrated himself and handed it over. "Then practice on your own. When I return, ask me about anything you fail to understand." The Hao dragon seized the manual with one claw. "Remember to bring me roasted chicken." Guan smiled, nodded, and turned away. The Hao dragon landed, spread the manual across the ground, and began turning the pages with its claw. After leaving the 8 Centuries cave heaven, Guan entered the mountains. Snow covered the forests beneath the night sky, yet he left no footprints behind. At dawn the following day, Guan had just finished leading the disciples through their exercises and was preparing to visit the 3rd Medicine Valley when Yi Lan arrived. Since his junior sister had come, Guan naturally needed to receive her. The two went into the pavilion to talk. Guan first asked about her recent circumstances. No matter how busy she became, Yi Lan visited him every year. It would have been impossible for him not to feel touched. Beginning last year, outer disciples started disappearing frequently, Yi Lan said with a sigh. No matter how thoroughly the Law Enforcement Hall investigates, we cannot find the culprit. Yet the Demon Extermination Hall can always produce some demonic spy to accept the blame. After the change in sect master, she and Lu Jujia had stopped communicating. The two halls were already hostile to one another, their relationship as irreconcilable as fire and water. Guan smiled. Then let the Demon Extermination Hall handle the arrests. That will give your people more time to cultivate. Yi Lan shook her head. It is not that simple. The master of the Demon Extermination Hall wants to absorb the Law Enforcement Hall, and the Outer Grand Elder seems to support the idea. If we accomplish nothing, the Law Enforcement Hall will eventually be dissolved. That is not necessarily a disaster. If it is dissolved, you can return here. The pills I can provide are no worse than the treatment of the Law Enforcement Hall. No. If you give everything to me, what will you do? Yi Lan refused directly, her expression extremely serious. Seeing this, Guan could not continue pressing the issue. He changed the subject, and they spoke of other matters instead. Because Yi Lan intended to remain for several days, Guan decided not to leave until after the New Year celebrations. After the New Year, the winter snow melted completely. Guan first visited Tianya Valley, harvested several thousand years of lifespan, sowed another round of seeds, and remained there for 2 days before traveling to the 3rd Medicine Valley. Mystic Valley was crowded with people. while Tianya Valley had the three monkey demons. Neither place felt lonely. The third Medicine Valley was different. Whenever Guan arrived, it was completely silent. Yi Yan and Old Tian both enjoyed that stillness and rarely disturbed one another. Guan entered one of the gardens and began harvesting mature medicinal herbs. Old Tian approached and asked curiously, "Why do you always harvest them personally?" "I should contribute some work," Guan replied. "When I harvest the plants with my own hands after caring for them, I feel a certain satisfaction as though I am genuinely contributing to the sect." Old Tian laughed. "You are genuinely contributing. It is not merely a feeling of satisfaction. I only hope the people above us think the same way." Guan smiled softly as he continued harvesting. Old Tian suddenly asked, "What would you do if you became sect master?" Guan's heart trembled, but his movements did not pause. He pretended to be annoyed. "Do not speak nonsense. You are not the sect master, so can you hand the position to me? Besides, I can barely manage a Medicine Valley. How could I manage the Taishuan sect's millions of disciples? With cultivation as low as mine, who would obey me if I became sect master?" He did not want the position in the first place. Guan wanted to cultivate comfortably, not endure endless pressure. If he became sect master and encountered an enemy he could not defeat, would he still be free to run away? His loyalty to the Taishuan sect had not reached the point where he would willingly die for it. Old Tian smiled and did not pursue the question. After Guan finished harvesting, the old man followed him toward the pavilion. "I actually know an extraordinary cultivation method. Would you like to learn it?" "Even Elder Guzong does not know it exists," Old Tian suddenly offered. "No. Wouldn't it be better to spend that time writing? You have seen that I rarely cultivate. My realm advances mainly through pills." "You are still young. How can you behave like this? You do not understand. This is called enjoying life. I prefer living within my capabilities. Of course, that is only my choice. Everyone pursues something different." Guan spoke without thinking. Why was this old man so talkative today? Was he trying to destroy Guan's Dao heart? Old Tian was about to continue when a sound came from the distant sky. The two turned and saw Guzong approaching on a flying artifact. Behind him stood a black-robed woman wearing a black veil. Only a pair of beautiful, captivating eyes remained visible. Had the holy maiden of the Daoshan sect arrived? Guan asked Old Tian to carry the medicinal herbs inside to receive the visitors. Shenzhen's second level, core formation realm, 78, 660, 1050. The golden wheel descended. Guzong smiled. "Guan, this is Shenzhen, the holy maiden of the Daoshan sect. You must receive her properly." He turned toward Shenzhen. She cupped her hands and bowed. Guzong nodded, stepped onto the golden wheel, and rapidly departed. Shenzhen looked toward Guan, her eyes examining him carefully. From those eyes alone, one could imagine that she was a rare and exceptional beauty. Guan cupped his hands. "I am Guan." "Greetings, Miss Shen." Shenzhen nodded faintly and asked curiously, "Which do you prefer, Investiture of the Gods or Taishuan Immortal Venerable?" She was testing him the moment they met. Guan's expression did not change. "I enjoy both. No one can love only a single book. Different moods make people desire different stories, do they not?" Shenzhen's eyes immediately brightened. "I also write books. Would you be willing to read one?" she asked, blinking. Guan naturally did not refuse. "Shall we read it upstairs?" Shenzhen nodded and followed him to the second floor. Guan intended to leave the door open. A man and woman alone in a closed room could create an awkward atmosphere. Shenzhen closed it herself. They sat at the table. She removed a book from her storage bag, frowned slightly, and appeared hesitant. After thinking for a moment, she still handed it to Guan. He accepted the book, and his eyelid twitched. The Black Hero's Travels? What kind of title was that? It was not a name anyone could casually choose. For a moment, Guan did not dare open it. Could Shenzhen be the author of the Wandering Hero's Travels? If so, the image of that mysterious author in his heart would collapse completely. No, that could not be right. Shenzhen belonged to the Daoshan sect of the Great Yu dynasty. How could she have published books through the Taishuan sect? After reasoning it through, Guan calmed down and began reading the Black Hero's Travels. Shenzhen lowered her gaze toward the tabletop. The tips of her ears, faintly visible through her long hair, had turned red. After finishing the first page, Guan immediately breathed a sigh of relief. She was not the author of the Wandering Hero's Travels. The difference in their prose was obvious, though it was equally clear that she was imitating the other book. He continued reading patiently. Every story in the Wandering Hero's Travels began with a description of the local mountains and rivers before turning toward the relationships between people. The Black's travels followed the same structure. However, Shenzhen's life experience clearly could not compare with that of the other author. Her scenic descriptions remained somewhat lacking. At least in Guan's eyes, they failed to create the vivid images found in the Wandering Hero's Travels. The room fell silent. After a while, Shenzhen stood and walked toward the bookshelf. Roughly half an hour later, Guan finally closed the Black Hero's Travels. Holding another book, Shenzhen turned toward him. Well, Guan asked, do you enjoy the Wandering Hero's Travels? Standing before the shelf, Shenzhen nodded faintly. Apart from cultivation manuals, the Wandering Hero's Travels was the first book I ever read. But my favorite is still your Taishuan Immortal Venerable. Perhaps that made sense. It was vulgar, so vulgar that it felt real. Guan smiled. I also enjoy the Wandering Hero's Travels. Reading it was what first made me want to write stories of my own. Shenzhen immediately stepped closer. She was visibly more excited than before, and her eyes shone as she began discussing the Wandering Hero's Travels with Guan. Although the Black Hero's Travels also contained romance between men and women, it was far less explicit than the Wandering Hero's Travels, and could still be considered an ordinary book. Their shared interest quickly shortened the distance between them. They moved from the Wandering Hero's Travels to Investiture of the Gods, and finally to Taishuan Immortal Venerable. After a long conversation, Guan could no longer suppress his curiosity. Have you ever met the author of the Wandering Hero's Travels? Shenzhen shook her head faintly. Although I greatly enjoy his books, I suspect he is an improper man, so I have no desire to meet him. You are different. From Investiture of the Gods to Taishuan Immortal Venerable, your styles are extremely varied. That makes me curious about you. Guan felt a trace of disappointment. The identity of the Wandering Hero remained one of the mysteries he was most curious about within the Taishuan sect. After completing Taishuan Immortal Venerable, will you continue writing stories about conflicts between Dao lineages like Investiture of the Gods? Shenzhen asked. Perhaps, Guan answered vaguely. What about you, Miss Shen? Do you intend to remain in the Taishuan sect? Shenzhen smiled. The Taishuan sect pressured you to ask, didn't it? In truth, we only require an official pretext. The Daotian sect also needs an alliance with the Taishuan sect to suppress rival sects within the Great Yu dynasty. At the same time, our two sects must prepare together for the coming Great Demon Calamity. Guan raised an eyebrow. What is the Great Demon Calamity? This continent contains 9 neighboring dynasties, including Taikong and Great Yu. Long ago, the 9 dynasties drove the most powerful demons beyond their borders. As a result, the territories outside the 9 dynasties became lands where demons and monsters run rampant. Those outer demons have now grown powerful enough to threaten all 9 dynasties. Although cultivation sects frequently send disciples to exterminate them, the wilderness beyond our borders is too vast. Demons with extraordinary talent always manage to grow. Within 100 years at most, the 9 dynasties will face a great demon calamity unseen for 1,000 years. When that time comes, at least one dynasty will certainly be destroyed. As Shenzhen spoke, her gaze became grave. Guan felt immense pressure descend upon him. He could already imagine shattered mountains and rivers, the Taishuan sect collapsing at the front line, and servant disciples being forced onto the battlefield. That could not be allowed. Within 100 years, he had to accumulate 1 million years of lifespan. After unlocking the next function, he needed to raise his cultivation as quickly as possible. With that thought, Guan asked, if the situation is so serious, why do you not cultivate more diligently instead of writing books? Shenzhen could not compare with Ji Xiaoyu, Chu Tongyou, or Li Ya, but her aptitude was still respectable, and the Daotian sect supported her. If she truly devoted herself to cultivation, she could certainly travel farther. Shenzhen smiled softly. Everyone possesses a destiny, and cultivation is not mine. I prefer reading and writing. Perhaps one day I will attain the Tao through books. Who decided that one must absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to attain the Tao? I have examined records from ancient times to the present, and it seems that none of those cultivators who spent their lives absorbing spiritual energy have survived until today. Guan looked at her differently. She truly dared to think beyond convention. They spoke for a while longer before Shenzhen prepared to leave. Guan stood and escorted her downstairs. She summoned a flying sword, leapt onto it, and left a final sentence as she soared into the sky. Young Master Gu, I will establish my cave residence nearby. When we have time, let us exchange ideas more often. Guan watched her departing figure with a bright smile. He was not pleased because Shenzhen intended to live nearby. He was pleased because the promised 7th grade spirit tree was now secured. The Taishuan sect acted quickly. Fewer than 3 days after Shenzhen's departure, the 7th grade spirit tree sapling arrived, once again delivered personally by Guzong. After Guzong left, Guan carried the sapling to the central strip of land between the gardens. It was called a sapling, but the tree was already 10 feet tall. Guan planted it on the grassy ground connecting the 4 gardens while Old Tian and Yiyan watched from behind. Once the tree was in place, Guan looked at it and smiled brilliantly. Mystic Azure Tree 7th grade. 48 8,999 65,000. A maximum lifespan of 65,000 years. No mortal could possibly compare. Old Tian laughed. The Mystic Azure Tree is extraordinary. It does not bear fruit, but cultivating beneath it calms the mind and strengthens the spirit. Guan's smile became even brighter. Old Tian, take good care of the mystic azure tree from now on. Do not allow anything to happen to it. Do not worry. Now that it has entered the earth, its vitality is stronger than these old bones of mine. Guan shook his head and laughed. The old man truly possessed a sense of humor. He then turned and walked away. Old Tian and Ye Yan remained before the tree, chatting without following him. Guan went directly to the edge of the Medicine Valley near the cliff. Another tree had been planted in the grass there, though it still showed no sign of growth. It was the root of the 6th-grade human-faced tree that Yi Lan had given him. The root had remained buried for several years, but its state was still recovering, and its current lifespan remained 0. Guan had once attempted to nourish it with his wood-attributed spiritual energy. However, it was like a bottomless pit. It absorbed everything he provided without producing the slightest result. He crouched beside the root. It remained buried in the soil, with only a tiny shoot emerging above the surface. After watching for a while, Guan suddenly detected a faint stream of spiritual energy flowing underground toward the human-faced tree. Tracing it to its source, he discovered that the energy came from the mystic azure tree. Could the mystic azure tree help revive the human-faced tree? Guan felt both delighted and worried. He feared that the human-faced tree might drain the mystic azure tree dry. After all, it had come from the Thousand Autumn Pavilion, and even its name sounded somewhat sinister. If the human-faced tree matured and proved to be an evil entity, Guan would uproot it immediately. He could not allow it to destroy the 3rd Medicine Valley. He also felt someone needed to monitor it, in case it quietly began growing in secret. Yi Yan had already reached the 8th level of key refining. His cultivation depended mainly upon pills. He practiced the spear all day. Although the process allowed him to absorb some spiritual energy, the resulting increase in cultivation was negligible. Once Yi Yan left, Guan would need to recruit several more people. Shortly after midsummer, 43-year-old Guan visited the outer city. He first submitted his latest manuscript and then strolled through the streets. The outer city was no longer as lively as before. Many disciples still passed through the streets, but most wore serious expressions and spoke in lowered voices. Guan looked up and saw 4 Demon Extermination Hall disciples descending from the sky. They landed before a distant pavilion, surrounded a disciple who had just stepped outside, and began questioning him. The disciple became furious. An argument broke out, followed by a fight. Then one of the Demon Extermination disciples displayed a command token. The man immediately became frightened and obediently allowed himself to be taken away. They had been arresting demonic spies for so many years. How had they still not caught them all? Guan frowned, but his thoughts contained only suspicion. He had no intention of interfering as long as they did not come for him. He headed toward the Beast Hall. He planned to raise several demon beasts in the 3rd Medicine Valley, so that Old Tian would no longer feel lonely. Old Tian worked diligently and had earned Guan's favor. By now, Guan genuinely treated him as one of his own servant disciples. Half an hour later, Guan left the Beast Hall with 3 additional pouches hanging from his waist. They were beast storage bags capable of holding living creatures, though each could contain only 1 demon beast. As soon as he stepped outside, he happened to encounter Lu Jujia again. This time, Lu Jujia was alone. He was walking toward the Beast Hall with a gloomy expression. The moment he saw Guan, however, he smiled and quickened his pace. "Senior brother, did you come to purchase demon beasts?" he asked warmly. His complexion was paler than before. A murderous aura lingered between his brows, and his entire body carried a dark, oppressive air. Guan nodded and asked with concern, "You do not look well. Is something wrong?" "What could possibly be wrong with me? I have simply been exhausting myself through cultivation recently." Lu Jujia replied with a shake of his head. Guan noticed demonic energy hidden inside his body. It was extremely concealed and would have been difficult to detect without careful observation. Had Lu Jujia become a demonic cultivator? Lu Jujia clearly did not wish to say more, so Guan could not continue questioning him. They exchanged a few words. Before parting, Lu Jujia warned him, "Senior brother, avoid leaving the valley at night. A powerful demonic cultivator has recently infiltrated the outer sect." With that, he turned and departed. Guan watched his back without dwelling on the matter and continued toward the 3rd Medicine Valley. After entering, he released the 3 spirit hounds he had purchased. All possessed 2nd-rank bloodlines, and their price had not been low. "I intend to remain in Mystic Valley for a while. Please take care of them," Guan instructed Old Tian. Old Tian nodded. Guan turned toward the teleportation platform. Perhaps it was only his imagination, but when he stood upon the platform, he noticed a faint worry in Old Tian's gaze. Before he could think further, the formation activated and transported him to Mystic Valley. The moment Guan arrived, he sensed a familiar aura. Li Ya. He stepped down from the platform and looked into the distance. Li Ya was teaching the disciples swordsmanship, and even Xiaoshuan was following along. Li Ya gave them a final instruction and walked toward Guan. When they met, Guan asked curiously, "Why are you here?" First level of the core formation realm. Li Ya had formed his core at 45, only 5 years later than Jiang Qiong. Li Ya smiled faintly. "I came to protect you. I heard that a demonic lord from the Tianjue sect infiltrated the outer sect. I could not feel at ease leaving you here, so I intend to remain until the matter is resolved before entering the inner sect." "Can you defeat that demonic lord?" Guan asked doubtfully. Li Ya smiled proudly. "I have formed my core. Do not underestimate me. A core formation cultivator is merely an inner disciple in the Taishuan sect. Can an inner disciple truly deal with a demonic lord? You brat, I came specifically to protect you, and you are criticizing me? I am afraid you will repeat what happened years ago. Have you forgotten when you charged out to fight the greed and anger demon, only to collapse after being injured? Enough. Must you mention that again?" The two began arguing back and forth. Despite Guan's relentless questioning, Li Ya did not become angry. He understood that Guan meant well and feared Li Ya would be dragged into danger. In truth, Guan was not worried about implicating Li Ya. He was afraid Li Ya would implicate him. "Brother, if the demonic lord comes while you are beside me, I will not be able to act." Guan could not reveal his true thoughts. Since Li Ya stubbornly insisted on remaining, he could only accept it. "By the way, have you seen junior brother Lu recently?" Guan asked. Li Ya shook his head. "No. I met him before, but he entered the demon extermination hall, and I have poor relations with the elders behind that organization. We stopped associating." His expression turned indifferent when speaking of Lu Jujia, as though the man held no importance in his eyes. Li Ya might be warm toward Guan, but he was extremely cold to most other people. "Come. Let us talk upstairs. I heard you obtained another Medicine Valley, and it is even located near the inner sect. You must explain everything properly." Li Ya pulled Guan toward the pavilion. They talked until deep into the night. Guan did not reveal that he was Panon. He claimed only that the higher-ups were pleased with Mystic Valley's harvests, and had therefore assigned another Medicine Valley to him. Li Xuandao had already been attacked politically because of investiture of the gods. How could Guan dare reveal his identity to Li Ya? What if Li Ya carelessly let it slip? No matter how strained their relationship became, Li Ya and Li Xuandao remained father and son. Until they completely severed ties, that blood relationship would always be closer than Li Ya's relationship with Guan. At the boundary between summer and autumn, the weather remained warm. 10 days had passed since Li Ya arrived. During that time, Mystic Valley encountered no danger. Guan still traveled outside to manage the cave residences of the outer disciples, and Li Ya insisted upon accompanying him. However, when they reached the residences, Li Ya remained outside because he feared causing additional trouble for Guan. Guan wanted him to remain in Mystic Valley and protect the disciples, but Li Ya cared little about other people. According to him, he had taught those disciples swordsmanship only out of consideration for Guan. That evening, Guan was harvesting mature medicinal herbs, while Li Ya sat in meditation atop the western mountain, absorbing spiritual energy. The setting sun hung directly above him, making him resemble a peerless expert overlooking the world. Suddenly, Guan sensed something. His right hand paused briefly before continuing the harvest. "There truly is a demonic lord here. I only hope he does not take an interest in my little Medicine Valley." The approaching aura far surpassed the Foundation Establishment realm, but to Guan, it presented no threat. The demonic energy flickered in and out of existence before gradually moving away from Mystic Valley, allowing him to breathe a sigh of relief. Compared with gaining several dozen years of lifespan by killing the intruder, he feared exposing his true strength far more. Night eventually descended. Inside his room, Guan was reading the Ziwei formation records. He was studying formations related to the wood element and had become so absorbed that he lost all awareness of time. His brows suddenly furrowed. Then he sighed. Mystic Valley itself had avoided trouble, but Li Ya had attracted the demonic lord's attention. On the mountaintop, Li Ya abruptly opened his eyes while meditating. He stood, walked to the cliff, and looked into the forest below. Beneath a tree on a mountain roughly 1,000 feet away, a mysterious figure stood like a ghostly shadow, watching him from afar. Under the moonlight, the figure almost merged with the darkness. Only by approaching closely could one have noticed his presence. Li Ya frowned. He raised a hand and pointed into the distance, then leapt into the air and flew toward the far end of the night sky. The mysterious figure beneath the tree dissolved into black mist and vanished without a trace. About the time it took an incense stick to burn later, Li Ya landed beside a mountain river. The waterway flowed between the peaks and was roughly 20 feet wide. Moonlight glittered across its rippling surface. The moment his feet touched the ground, black smoke appeared on the grass across the river and condensed into a human figure. "You are not the demonic lord of the Tianjue sect," Li Ya said. You seem to know me. A hoarse voice emerged from the shadow. Prince Liya, inheritor of the divine transformation sword intent, left by Guzhou's greatest sword cultivator. Encountering you here is an unexpected delight. Liya drew the treasured sword at his waist and pointed it across the river. Stop pretending to be some ghost or god. The moment he finished speaking, violent sword energy erupted from his body. His black robes thrashed like flames. 7 silver sword shadows rapidly condensed around him, shining brilliantly beneath the night sky. A mere core formation cultivator dares resist me? The mysterious figure laughed coldly with open contempt. He dissolved into demonic energy once more and, almost in the same instant, appeared directly behind Liya. Liya's pupils contracted. He immediately shot upward while twisting around and slashing behind him. The 7 silver sword shadows raced toward the stranger with extraordinary speed. Boom, boom, boom! The silver swords struck the ground one after another. Dust surged into the air, and the surrounding trees shook violently. Still airborne, Liya had not even determined whether his attack connected when a powerful gust swept past him. He could not react in time and was sent flying. Liya tore through the forest like an arrow, smashing through tree after tree. He traveled several thousand feet before finally coming to a stop. When the dust settled, he was covered in blood and leaning against a shattered branch. Cracks covered the wood, and its leaves continued trembling. The mysterious figure appeared in the air above and looked down at him. Brat, you formed your core only recently, yet you dare attack me. Your courage is impressive. Do you even know what realm I have reached? Liya struggled to raise his head. Blood had dyed his vision red. Damn it. He gritted his teeth and attempted to stand, but his body refused to obey. Oh, what happened to you, brat? Why are you injured again? You are not merely gambling with your own life. You are gambling with the life of this ancestor as well. An elderly voice sounded inside Liya's mind, filled with helplessness. The mysterious figure raised his right hand and aimed it at Liya from across the air. Demonic energy covered his entire body, concealing his true form beneath the darkness. Just as he prepared to speak, a hand wreathed in demonic energy settled upon his shoulder. His entire body stiffened. In the next instant, slender branches erupted from his flesh, carrying sprays of blood. Suspended in the air, his body resembled a blooming flower made of gore. The demonic energy surrounding him scattered and revealed his true appearance. He was a stern, middle-aged man wearing the robes of an outer elder. Branches had pierced every part of his body, and his fierce face was filled with disbelief. He struggled to turn his head and saw a black-purple figure standing behind him. The demonic shadow divine art. You, he whispered in terror. Liya's eyes suddenly widened. Elder Chen, why is it you? The middle-aged man had no opportunity to answer. The figure behind him seized the storage bag at his waist. Immediately afterward, green flames erupted across the branches, penetrating his body. Within moments, Elder Chen was reduced to ashes. Both body and soul vanished completely. The black-purple figure remained suspended in the air, his right arm still extended as though gripping Elder Chen's shoulder. Below, Liya felt overwhelming pressure. He knew Elder Chen had been a powerful nascent soul cultivator, yet a cultivator of that realm had been destroyed without the slightest ability to resist. The void-crossing realm, at least the 5th level, the ancestor's voice sounded within Liya's mind, now filled with unprecedented gravity. Those 3 words, void-crossing realm, sent Liya's heart into chaos. The mountains and forests fell silent beneath the night sky. Liya's heart pounded in his throat as he remained constantly prepared for the stranger to attack. Inside, he screamed, "Ancestor!" Several breaths later, the black-purple figure suddenly vanished from the air. Liya's entire body trembled, and he hurriedly looked around. He has left. Perhaps he was considering something, the ancestor said, allowing Liya to breathe again. Brat, stop concerning yourself with that Guan and enter the inner sect immediately. This outer sect grows stranger by the day. Someone is certainly committing unspeakable acts in the shadows. If you remain here, something terrible will happen sooner or later. The ancestor's tone became stern. Liya remained silent. Inside the pavilion in Mystic Valley, Guan looked at the storage bag in his hand and sighed softly. Senior Brother Li, forgive me. I could not keep you completely unharmed, or you would have remained here forever. Guan felt guilty. Liya had come to Mystic Valley for his sake. Elder Chen had clearly intended to capture him, but if Liya had entered the inner sect directly, this hidden danger would never have arisen. Guan decided that once Liya returned, he would give him more medicinal herbs. Killing Elder Chen had granted Gon 37 years of lifespan. Not especially much, but not insignificant either. He began inspecting the Elder's storage bag. After sweeping it several times with divine sense, he removed and burned anything that might conceal danger or allow others to track it. Liya did not return until dawn. He had changed into clean robes and showed no outward sign that he had just survived a battle. Guan met him downstairs. Senior Brother Li, why do you look unwell? Liya smiled. I made a minor mistake while cultivating last night. It is nothing serious. Gu Hun frowned, pulled him upstairs, and brought out every pill he had refined dozens of bottles in total. He claimed he had purchased them over time and stored them for emergencies. Liya stared in surprise. Junior brother Gu, what are you doing? You returned from outside the valley, and your complexion is clearly wrong. You were involved in a battle last night, weren't you? Gu Hun asked in a solemn voice. Liya's expression darkened. He took a deep breath. I did encounter a demonic cultivator and I was injured. Junior brother Gu moved to your medicine valley near the inner sect. The outer sect is no longer safe. No longer safe? Gu Hun did not believe that. His foundation and livelihood were here. He could not abandon them. Anyone who came looking for trouble would simply have to die. Outwardly, Gu Hun smiled bitterly. Senior brother Li, Mystic Valley contains only low-grade medicinal herbs. What demonic lord would take an interest in it? In truth, we may be safer when you are not here. Go to the inner sect. We will be fine. I can ask Lu Jujia for assistance. Our relationship has not been severed. But Liya hesitated. Gu Hun interrupted him. Senior brother Li, I have always felt that the chaos in the outer sect is not truly caused by demonic cultivators. The Demon Extermination Hall has existed for many years and arrested countless supposed spies. Is it possible that someone is using the name of the demonic path to create disorder? If you enter the inner sect, perhaps you can help save the outer sect. But if you remain here, how long can your strength alone protect me? Liya's expression immediately became grim as he remembered Elder Chen. After struggling for several breaths, he inhaled deeply. Junior brother Gu, you are right. I will enter the inner sect immediately. Gu Hun smiled and quietly gave him all the pills, leaving Liya deeply moved. They did not waste time on further pleasantries. Gu Hun urged him to depart, and Liya also understood that the matter could not be delayed. Because of his injuries, Liya could only travel by flying sword. After leaving Mystic Valley, he could not help turning back. Do you see? He murmured. This is why I cannot abandon him. No matter who they are, anyone who dares harm him will regret it for the rest of their life.